Are you
Just imagine what he's
Dane?
used to at
Are
this
you
point.
impressed with our skills of like our videos up? Where we're
No,
editing on the
I'm
fly?
loving it, man.
You're like max
You guys are
efficiency.
doing a great
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
I was like,
Seriously.
oh, I hope our team saw this.
No, we don't want our team to see this.
No,
We definitely
no.
don't want Jeff, the owner, to see this because he's
Wait, that's possible?
yeah. They can do that in a day.
So for those of you who don't know, which I find hard to believe,
Somebody
Anthony,
does know.
Levi, Dane from the Rag Company, and this is their podcast studio in Boise, Idaho. And we're staying in an Airbnb. I brought Mike, Trevor, Andrea, Tommy, and Mike W. So I brought the team of, there's 6 of us out here just kind of helping. And then this is the way to do a project because I have, how many do we have? Gabe. We have
Josh Brodel.
Josh. We have
Other Josh, yeah.
Petra.
yeah, we had Petro. We've had a bunch of you guys. Well, you guys have done
Mitch,
anything.
Mitch, our intern.
Mitch is
Yeah,
awesome.
intern Mitch. Yep. So we have a lot of help, and it's made this project much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you guys are what are you doing? All that you're doing, and we'll get into this
It's called color
discussion.
commentary and supervision.
I had a come to Jesus moment with these two here about throwing things away. So we'll get into that. We'll save that for later in the podcast.
Do we have to?
I saw like there was shaky voices and anger and
I went and made
and
some boxes
emotions.
to save some
Road
things.
brown.
We were kids. You were telling us to throw our toys away, and we
Yeah.
don't want to throw our toys
No.
away.
This is
Play with
this is stuff that
themselves.
they don't use, didn't even know they had, aren't going to use, but yet now it's in some closet somewhere.
Yeah, it's safe.
Yeah.
Save. We might need it.
Yeah, I can take you over to the chocolate factory. You can see the rest of our stuff.
Right.
Yeah. We'll cover this later. So today,
Those
though.
video tours.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
today we've made more progress on the studio. Right. First day was pretty much flooring.
Yeah, flooring, and then taking inventory, getting the old pressure washer stuff off the wall, and actually hanging it straight. And
Yeah, well, water flows downhill. I don't know if you guys know that.
yeah, that's true.
So
It's a little crooked.
I was up high and it came down.
Yep. So Mike worked on that while we kind of set the floor.
Yeah.
You always set the floor at the garage door. We came up with a solution to do a piece of what is that? A flat.
It's a 3/4 inch by 10-foot flat bar.
Yeah, so it weighs what, 150 pounds.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that will sort of set the floor, and we built the floor off of that section because there's kind of an odd transition from a water break curb into the garage, and if you bring in forklifts and things like that, it would rip up.
It's a
the
heavy.
flooring.
You bounce pretty hard.
Yeah, so we're
matter what
gonna have a
angle.
piece of that flat iron that's right in the right in the doorway
yeah.
that will help sort of catch the brunt of the forklift, and then the flooring will stay in place. So we started there. The guys unboxed and laid out. I started making the first initial cut so we could kind of set the floor. We're doing it in summertime so we could set it nice and tightly against all the walls, make nice straight cuts. They got the floor all the way, done all the way back. And then once we got the floor done all the way to the back, then we could start unboxing the cabinets.
Yeah, that was fun too.
I cannot stress to you, I've seen every cabinet in the world.
Yeah, you've been ranting and raving about how great these are.
Cannot stress to you people how good the Russo cabinets are.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
They're pretty good.
So
They're pretty. I mean, they're okay. They're pretty good.
they're not quite huskies,
I
right?
mean, not huskies,
I
but
got a bunch of duffel bags at my house, so these are way better than.
So
Duffel
they're
bags.
okay. Yeah.
every piece, like all the stuff that like holds up, say the back plates. I didn't find a single run or like nib in the
Yeah,
powder
that is
coating.
true. Yeah.
It's just wild how dialed in it is. I'm feeling a little
Or-
jealous about the color because the color choice that we put in here is pretty.
I was gonna say, people saw in the video, hopefully yesterday's video, when it tipped forward and the drawers fell out and hit the concrete.
Yeah.
That was exciting.
They were fine.
Didn't even scratch them.
Unscathed.
Totally fine. Not damaged at all. It was unbelievable. That's how good their powder coating is too.
If you need more
and how
convincing,
sturdy those were.
having seen them at SEMA, I was pretty much able to stand on one of those.
Dane
boards
walked around
with
with a
it
dance
open.
on top of
And
it.
anybody can see, I'm a big boy, so that's
If
not,
anything, though, if anything, I've learned anything from watching this process and supervising, of course, is that you probably would not want to do that whole cabinet install by yourself.
Oh,
I mean, you
I think
could.
you at least
It would
have a
just take- it would
friend.
take
If you're
some
Mike
time.
F, you could, but
Yeah.
Mike's built differently,
It's
though.
better to do it with a buddy,
Yeah,
or
what's
a
more
couple
fun?
Buddies. Yeah.
I will
and-
tell you this: Gabe Garcia there has been helping you.
Well, he's been doing
This
almost
is
it. I've been
this
supervising.
is his probably the greatest
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. This is
Super
the
Bowl.
greatest
Yeah.
moment of his life.
This makes him happier
These
than anything.
cabinets, this being able to adjust them with you. This is everything he's ever dreamed about.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
So
I've been having a lot of
you've
fun.
made a man's dream come true, basically. know
So
that.
this is the first time,
Yeah.
I've had a toolbox. I've seen him at SEMA for many years. This is the first time putting them together, and so
Yeah.
we're having to figure it out and figure out, okay, what did we do wrong? Oh, we should have done this before we did that.
Right.
And so the beauty is that I don't think there's a single video of this process anywhere in the world.
Yeah, you guys have been learning
And
this.
Russo's been at this for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And now we're making the first video. And so this is my justification for my existence, right?
Yeah.
Providing value in that way. And yeah, it's long and it'll be a lot of detail in the video and not everybody's going to watch it. But if you were going to buy these cabinets, you'd probably
be
watch it
watching
twice.
Yeah.
So you could see, okay,
great
it'll
point.
give you such a leg up on not screwing it up because I don't know much. That cabinet array is probably $25,000 worth of cabinets.
Yeah.
You want to do it right if you have the choice. You don't
Well,
wanna
and
mess
like
it up.
one of the fun things noticing was like a thing so when we built this place 5 years ago, Anthony and I were way more involved in the build because this was our workspace and we were stoked to get this all built out and it's been awesome. But with this revamp, this has really been Gabe and Josh's project. Josh
Absolutely.
Brodel. They've literally took it from the moment we said we were doing this. They took it and took the reins, and they've been the project managers and leaders of it.
Yeah.
And so, for a lot of it, the reason we've stepped back is because this is the culmination of everything they've built, and we want them to feel like they have a hand in it and the sweat equity in building this place because we already had our sweat equity in
Yeah.
a sense.
The-
In that
The
sense,
sweat equity was just
In
getting
version
this
version
building
1.
and
Yeah,
making
in
it
V1.
hospitable.
V1.
But this version with them, like it's so fun to see the excitement because they got to
They're passionate
help
about
figure out where those cabinets were going to go. They spent the time with Kyle doing that stuff,
And they're OG.
and they
types.
are very OG
Yeah.
types.
No offense,
compared to
none
the
of you
three
guys
us.
are OG types. right?
Absolutely
We're just
not.
friends.
We're just friends. We like hang
yeah,
out.
we're like opposites attract.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm wearing a shirt right now. That's pretty good.
Well, that's because you were trying to win the.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But
He wants the giveaway.
It's all good. No, but we've made. I can't say we, but everybody's made a lot of progress here,
Yeah.
and it's really cool to kind of see that transformation because for people that are watching the videos constantly, are people that enjoy watching the garage build and seeing how everything's chosen and seeing how Mike's process for where he starts and it just his mind, right, and how everything comes together. It's kind of cool being able to like sit back and watch it because I feel like I'm watching it live. I mean, I am watching it live, but I
exactly.
feel like I'm watching a video live. And what's cool is that everything that you guys see on video is the same thing that we're seeing in person. It's not.
It's accurate.
Well,
Yeah,
Not
there's-
contrived. Our videos aren't contrived.
No, it's very natural, and that's. I mean, there's a lot of joking around that's done. I don't know if Waba's getting everything, but I mean, it's probably for the best. But
like 90% of that is you.
maybe it is. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't come to these things.
But I'll say this: what I love is watching Mike's process because,
Yeah.
like, I love seeing how he does things, and it's super cool as a father to watch him and Trevor out there,
Yeah.
and see Trevor actually listen and do the job. Because I built fences, I built shops, I built all kinds of stuff with my dad. I hated every minute of it.
Sure.
I'll say that. I was just, I can build a fence myself. I can do that. Might not be straight, but hey, at least I got it done. But the point is,
Character building.
it's awesome to see Mike's process and the precision in which he holds his craft and what you guys have built with doing these garages and doing these things and the way the channels have changed. Because I've known you guys for almost 8 years, which is crazy.
Yeah, I take a lot of it for granted. There's a lot that goes into this, even where we're at today. There was a lot of prep work. There was so Kyle and the design team having to design it, lay it all out. I mean, they killed it. I mean, this is our first. Actually, it's probably our 5th full ordered array of Russo.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn and do training and do tutorials and make sure we got all the right parts and pieces working with Randy and the team at Russo. And then, of course, getting us all here. And then you can see how we work together as a group. Like we've done it quite a few times. And your studio is a little bit different. A couple of things that occurred to me while you guys were talking. Your studio is very different than mine, and there's like 10, 15 people that use it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like like my studio is mine and it's me and don't mess
Right.
with it.
You control how messy it gets.
Right. And so there's that element. So that's what we're hoping to add up quite a bit of storage and then maybe, create some specific areas and labels and things like that. I forget what the other thing I was thinking about that it'll come to me as we work through the podcast. But that first thing about having multiple people, that's a much more difficult thing to manage.
Yeah, and originally when it first started, it was mostly just going to be me and Anthony making videos out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it quickly became the point where, we're doing Amazon stuff. We bring people in, so all the different manufacturers, we bring them in to shoot videos. If they have ideas or we want to do something, we now have that person. We've got all the various shows. We do Satisfying Saturday. We do Details with Levi. We do
And the most important,
Anthony stuff.
our TRCMA.
And then TRCMA, which is our biggest event where we have, this place is for an entire week straight. There's 75 people here every day, nonstop broadcasting. And so it gets to a point where it's like, oh, do you have this? Yeah, let me run and go grab that. And what'll be nice is the goal of this was organization at the end of the day, because have had a lack of that.
It's a small lack of organization. We're
so I want to talk a little bit about the company and so it's been 8 years or no, what did I say? 6 years since I was here last, right? And so I was still in wealth management then. I still had a job, and you guys had allowed me to come out here. I was on my way back from
Utah.
Raptor.
the Utah Raptor driving experience, and I said, well, I'll just make a stop in here. I was here for 3 or 4 days. We picked out microfiber 1.0, I think. And we're going to go over microfiber 4.0. And so you guys, they all know my story of the growth and what's changed.
Sure.
And so back then, let's say 6 years ago, how many people do you guys think you had roughly?
We probably had
At
under
that time,
20, maybe.
it was
around
like
20.
around 15 to 17, I would say.
It was under 20.
And how many buildings you had? You'd gotten this, but they hadn't done anything with it yet.
No, we
No.
had
When
didn't
you
have
were here,
these.
we didn't have these yet.
Yeah.
Right.
But we had the main building, which is 15,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And then we had the white room
just
building.
The photo studio.
We just got the photo studio built.
That's right.
And that building is 15,000 square feet. And so that was all we had.
But it was
when
also
came to us.
mostly dedicated to
5,000
being
of
a
it was a
gigantic photo studio. So as far as storage
10,000.
went, we couldn't really use it for that.
Yep.
Now that's changed. Now we are using it.
Well,
for
and this whole
storage.
front of the building, too, over here, was a scrapyard.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
literally a construction scrapyard.
was scrapyard, yeah.
Was not pretty.
So I inside the Hex, when I first got here, I just carried the camera while you guys gave me my base tour.
Yeah.
We will do, so that's on Inside the Hex now. I did a tour. We've also put Inside the Hex on YouTube if you want to subscribe. It's more money than on our channel or on my website, but you can do that and watch usually things ahead of schedule from my vantage point, not from like Mike W's vantage point of me. So it's just more point of view, more
personalized.
Yeah, vlog style. That's where I do most of the business talk. And there's some inside stuff we probably won't show when we do the full tour, but we're going to do a full formal tour here in a couple of days of the facility.
Yeah.
So make sure to stay tuned for that. So the business as the rag companies, I don't think you guys were doing anything on Amazon at the time.
We were selling our towels on Amazon.
Were you?
It was
think?
very
And
early days.
we had been doing because we were still picking and packing and hand QC and everything and hand folding.
But like your
That's for
little
Amazon.
area where you were testing products and shooting videos was in the middle.
Was
of the
in the middle of
warehouse.
our warehouse.
And that's what I
Right,
wanted to point
literally,
out.
like, literally middle of
Earlier
the
when I was kind of wanting to butt in on the point about what this building was made for was originally when I was shooting our videos and doing our stuff when we were over there. And I mean, it was pretty much you guys, and then I would come down. And for the time when Gabe was here, he helped with it, but a lot of it was just me trying to shoot with two simultaneous cameras, and we had to shoot in the middle of an active warehouse. So the big challenge with that is obviously people trying to pack stuff in the background, doing all that. We can try and give them a heads up when we're going to go shoot something, but the reality is like the job has to go on. So as much as we want to produce videos, we had to get creative sometimes. But yeah, as far as storage goes, it was hard to store anything down there because it was an active work area.
Yeah.
So a lot of our stuff had to go up and down the stairs with us every day if we wanted to shoot something.
That's right. There were the offices upstairs on that looked out into the warehouse, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And so the well, just take me through the 2-minute version of the evolution of buildings now, because now there's quite a bit more of them. So they had the two these are called
These
Quonset
are
huts.
Quonset huts. Yeah.
And these had ammunition in them or something?
No, they were originally built as just storage rooms. Like they were literally sheds originally on this property.
Or flooring
And then, a construction company, basically one of the largest construction companies in Boise, used to be based on this property.
And they had the whole complex.
So they had the whole complex. So like one building did kitchen and bath. This building was flooring.
Yeah.
The building next door was files or something. And then every building still has markers of what it used to be.
They were named very obvious things,
Yeah.
like interior systems and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like it was very...
This building had a showroom. It had like literally you walked into the front through the front door and it would take
had all the different types of
kitchen.
Yeah, that's what this.
The
that's what
tile
this
on the
counter
wall is the final remaining piece outside of those fans we've got. Those fans look a little weird because they were here before.
Gotcha.
But this was our office space was originally the design center. So when we remodeled all this, we took out walls. This was someone's office, apparently.
Yeah, we kind of...
This is the only room we really kept that was part of the building, and that tile wall on the outside. But we demoed all this. But it was basically we had those two buildings, and then we decided to take these two. And originally we thought, tear it all down, we'll build a new building. And the management company said, no, we're gonna gut them and we'll refinish them. And so that's what they did. And it took them a couple years to do that. And by 2020, we were able to move into these or at least be ready to move in.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's
It had
crazy?
sheetrock on the walls and insulation and electrical, and that was about it.
Yeah.
What's crazy? We didn't know what was in these buildings. We knew that they were. We knew that there was like storage for somebody, but it ended up being that this gymnastics place here was using it as storage, right? And then there was other storage
Parked their bus in the
that
middle.
was just left forever and ever. And so when we opened them up for the first time, there was filing cabinets. There was all sorts of there's spiders everywhere. It was like coming into a horror
The
movie.
ceiling had collapsed at one point, and there was water
it was-
damage all over the place.
It was
bad.
crazy. And they had to check the building for asbestos, all the different fun stuff, black mold and all that. But what we didn't know is how much like they were paying previously for this. Both of these Quonset huts, it was something like
It was $100.
like $100 a month for each one.
Oh,
Like
geez.
how?
They were
what the rent was on these,
He'd been paying, one of the guys over here had been paying $100 a month for both, or $200 a month for both of these buildings.
14,000 square feet, $200
for
a month.
like 7
Absurd.
years.
Yeah.
For like 7 years. And I'm like, this much space for that cheap for 7 years? I mean, granted, it was horrible space.
It was absolutely horrible.
But
I will-
now it's
I mean, my darn 5x10 storage unit was $125 a month.
Yeah.
No, it was unbelievable. We couldn't, it was like shocking. But now that we have them, we've obviously revamped them.
So you got the two Quonset huts.
So we got those, built these out, and then we got what's called the chocolate factory down on the end.
Okay.
Because it was
Because
at
it
one
was
time
it was
a chocolate factory.
so that's what we call it. But it's another part of the warehouse, and it attaches to the other main 10,000 square foot warehouse. And then we started construction after we got the chocolate factory on the new building on the other side of the creek here.
Yep. Okay.
And that building has taken us 3 years
Yeah.
from start to finish to get built. And when we built that, we wanted to build one in the front too, because we were like, hey, we're going to plan for the future and all this. And one of the big things was the city said, ooh, that's frontage. We need to zone it as retail property, and we can't just turn it into a warehouse. And that's what we wanted to do. And so
They're trying to dress up the area, Garden City.
they
State Street
basically
and all
said,
that.
we want a Starbucks to be able to go in there. And we said, but there's a Starbucks across the street. And they said,
They didn't care.
it's just a figure of speech. But so that necessitated, we still need the building regardless.
Yeah.
And that was when we decided to go into basically rent the front of that out to one of our local detailing distributors, which is MVP Detail Supply. Yep. They're one of the oldest detail supply distributor in the state. I used to buy from their truck all the time. That was how I outfitted my shop and ran that. But they needed a base of operations so that the truck that goes throughout the state can deliver detailing products, and they had been wanting to have a storefront.
Yeah.
And we had closed our storefront here in 2020 during COVID, and so we hadn't opened it. We've been doing online only, pick it up and then show up and do a
like
curbside pickup. And we just kept hearing customer after customer after customer going, man, I just miss going in and shopping and looking at stuff and touching and feeling towels and doing this. And so it really necessitated the need to let's get
But
Connor
that
up. And
that
so now we have
retail
that.
for you guys was more of a distraction than it was. For
Well, it was
anything.
just hard to staff.
Yeah.
We only got like 1 or 2 people a day, and half the time they'd come in and I'd have to come down. Or if Anthony was getting a cup of coffee or getting a drink or something or using the microwave, someone walks in the door and it's like, all right, well, I'm down here. Or we'd text each other, hey, I gotta leave, I'm going on lunch, or I've got a phone call at this time. Who can we get to help a customer? And so we were never properly staffed to have the storefront in the first place.
And to spend $40,000 a year on an employee to have 2 people a day come in, and that math doesn't work.
It just doesn't make sense.
It didn't work, but it was always. I mean, I love those.
met a lot of
I love
people.
those early days of actually like just being available at the storefront because we met so many different types of people, and my favorite was meeting people that essentially were like you, but didn't know about you.
Yeah, that was always fun.
And they would come in and they would go, "Hey, so here's what I'm doing, and I need like 7 of these Rupes yellow pads," and I go, why do you need 7 of them? Well, just because I think it's going to look nice in the cabinet, and I think it's going to.
We were like, someone's playing a joke on us here.
And like, then they'd be like, oh, I also need like I want 5 of these towels, and then I'd look at him like, is this guy messing? I'm like, did you watch like one of Matt's videos? And he goes, who? And I'm like, Matt, like Obsessed Garage. Yeah, I don't know who that is, but I think I want this, and it would be the funniest thing because I go,
but then they'd come back and they'd go, I watched that guy.
Dude,
holy crap, where's he been my whole life?
Yeah.
This is amazing.
He was literally built
like,
to be an audience member for you.
People exist in the wild, and we found that out like early on, and that's why it's like, I mean, it was just kind of crazy. So,
well, let me
fun,
be blunt. You guys were customers in our store
customers.
before anything else. Like, you guys are here because you were guys who were coming in initially to buy stuff.
Well, everybody knows
in
the
the
first
store.
day I showed up at the rag company. I spent 3 hours.
Yeah,
and walked out $300 later with
That's
some
right.
towels and tried them, and then that was it.
but even Anthony too. I mean,
I remember walking to that storefront. I mean, everything was being unpacked in the
That's right.
first storefront. I mean, it wasn't even. They literally it was in boxes, and I walk in. Dane's at the front counter. Hey, sorry, we're still kind of setting up. Feel free to put your head in the boxes and like look around. I'm like, all right,
not the normal store experience.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. So I'm like looking around, and then eventually, after I went there for several years, buying different products and stuff like that, and then then this building happened, and then this building is kind of where, I mean, everything started snowballing in a good way.
2017 was this building when we came into it.
Yeah.
So now you have about 100,000 square feet
Total.
of space.
Yeah.
You have 60 some odd employees.
Yeah.
Right? So the business has changed quite a bit. What I'm interested in, because you guys probably haven't talked about this a lot, I'm interested in take me through each one of your roles and what's changed. So from the beginning that you came in and then what you're doing now. So sort of
that is a good
take me through the roles, because I don't hear you guys talking about that very often.
Gosh.
Business wise.
Yeah.
Not just content wise, but business wise.
Yeah. How do you earn your keep around here?
Jeez, how
So
long?
where
how
did
long
you start?
I mean, how long do we got?
5 minutes.
5
each.
minutes. 5 minutes each. Okay, where I started as I was an ex-bodybuilding.com employee, right?
Yeah.
Was laid off, massive layoff. That whole company went downhill. Started here. I started here as a part-time video editor because I wanted to work here. I didn't.
So you're young, single, renting. Are you living at home? Or are you renting?
No, I was renting. I wasn't affected super negatively by getting laid, if that makes sense, right? There's people way worse off.
So you were able to come in here and sort of volunteer
it was a risk. I mean, it was either this or jumping into another corporate job. I mean, that was the plan, is either this or taking a risk here. No health insurance. They just got dental. They just got vision. But
we didn't even have that.
Didn't have that. But I wanted to work here because that was like the first question was, Anthony, you just got laid off of your dream job, right? Or you worked at this company, you thought it was your dream job. Now what do you want to do? Well, I've been into detailing since I was a teenager. I had already been a customer here. I could see the potential, and obviously I loved the company and the people behind it. So I said, well, I want to work here. But that capacity looked different early on because it wasn't like I can go from a marketing and merchandising job from my previous position and jump in to do that here, right? It wasn't here yet. So I tried to jump into this company any capacity I could, which just so happened to be a part-time video editor because I knew how to edit some videos, from other ventures, right? And so, but started here, and I started part-time on a Monday. I was full-time on Friday, and for me, it was just over time. It took on the social media, the Instagram, almost like literally it was like 2 days in the job. I was like,
quick.
I was like, who's doing this? I'm like, I'll just take over this. So I took over that. And then, a couple months later, it was, hey, I have I think I have a video idea. Let's do this Wash Wednesday video idea. Let's try to do this. And then it was that capacity. And then it was being more involved in the trainings, doing the trainings, going to Rupes, doing all this stuff and basically getting myself more involved in the industry because Levi had all the experience and he had all the hands-on experience of 20 something years, which was far more than what I had on my own, enthusiast ventures. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to be able to meet the people, right? And so Levi knows everybody. I mean, literally everybody. I mean, he doesn't forget a name. So it was really cool because I went from one industry where I knew everybody in the bodybuilding industry, right? Yeah. I, shook hands with Jay Cutler, Ronnie Cole, all these different, massive, bodybuilders and
people
stuff like that. People
keep asking about the picture next to you, so I was going to say that's one.
Yeah. So, Steve Cook is from Boise, Idaho, right? He was a huge idol of mine. And so, I knew all these people in that industry. Yep. I knew nobody in this. So for me, it was like the first year of transitioning to that. And then before we know it, it was being involved in more videos and then kind of coming into the role of, okay, so what are we doing for sale ideas and taking a lot of my previous, because weirdly enough, you can take the fitness industry, right? A lot of that stuff with supplements and sales and just general retail, and you can apply it to really anything, right?
Once you've selling is selling. Right?
Selling is selling. So it was kind of taking a lot of that experience of this is what we did, this is what we tried, and moving that over. But I think one of the first questions I had asked Jeff when I got into this position was, are we selling on Amazon? And he had said, we are just now starting to sell on Amazon. And that was a big thing because that's why bodybuilding failed, is because of Amazon. I mean, ultimately that and bad management, bad leadership. But I mean, Amazon is what took over. And so it was, how do we get prepared? How do we get in the right position to where we're not going to fail in the future, and how we can embrace that change that we all have to embrace, right? And go with that. So, but I mean, everything from social media to being in videos to coming up with sales, and now my role has changed now into more product development, product ideas, and general marketing ideas, video. I mean, it's tough to say because when you ask that, we've all wore so many hats.
Well, what's your current title? Do you have a title?
I actually had a meeting about this the other day. Because I don't know what it is right now. So I truly don't know what it is. So right now I'm just saying I'm Anthony from the Rag Company.
What do you want it to be?
It's a good question, man. That's a hard question. You put me on the spot here. I don't know. I think here's the tough part.
If you could write the script, if you could make a request, what would that be? And you probably don't have that answer right now.
I don't have that answer right now.
But if you come up with it in our conversation, chime in and let us know. But I think that's one of the keys. I know Jeff, and Jeff is the CEO, the owner. I guess he's the president. And
he's the president.
Mrs.
Carolyn is Miss 51%.
She's the CEO.
Yeah. So, but no, that's a good question. I normally would have a better answer for something like that, but that's truly because of your initial question, right? We've had a lot of changes, right? We've implemented new systems. We've implemented a lot of different things, and there are internal changes here that are happening every single day. And I think a big part of that is finding, is taking our 20 hats that we once wore and really trying to make that to where we're only wearing, 2 or 3.
You're making that transition from a company to an organization, right? And
correct.
there's some growing pains there, and then it's on you to sort of figure out how do you fit in that.
Well,
right?
in the hard part is I'll openly say that it was so fun in those initial years where we had to be super scrappy, right?
We're all rowing the boat together.
You're all rowing the boat together. Any idea is not. I want to say any idea is a good idea, but it felt so awesome.
It wasn't a bad idea.
It wasn't really a bad idea, but it felt so awesome to really try to take this and run with it. And I think that's why a lot of people love. There's people out there that crave startup businesses, right? Because they love that constant pursuit of how do you keep achieving that, those dopamine hits of this is amazing, what you're building is amazing. And then once it's been built, it's kind of okay, well, it's been built, now there's structure. Do I want to keep chasing that feeling of, constantly building, or when do you finally accept to settle on that?
Well, I think that
Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm living it as the CEO of, and I have many people like you that are younger than you guys that are not as far along as you guys are. Because I'd say I'm like 50% behind you guys, right? I was just starting when you guys were, creating a company, and I was a startup, right?
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of similarities in my young guys that now in 5 years, 6 years, they'll be your age, right? So they'll be like in the position you guys are in. So when you make this transition to this organization, it's on you to make sure that you don't let the organization outgrow you. And so
100%.
it's a joint role here that the owners and the upper level management have to make sure that the team grows with it. But it does happen at times where the organization can outgrow its founding people, and so you have to really make sure that you're growing with the organization to make sure you can kind of keep up with it. And that's an important distinction I think a lot of employees miss out on, especially if you're like the guys that you were sweeping the floors, and then you were then you're building the computers, and then you're starting the thing from scratch. You're building all the desks in here were built by you, and then figuring out what's your role, how do you fit in the future, because now you can no longer just row the boat together. Your roles silo, and hopefully you're able to fit into the role that you like the most, right?
Yeah.
So you can leverage your talent. If you can leverage your talent, then chances are you will work. Work won't feel like work. So you'll end up doing more, which means that you'll get more in the future. The one thing I do caution all people, that not you guys, but people listening, the money and the titles always come later than you think you deserve it,
Yeah.
But I can assure you that if you have a good leader, and if you believe that you have a good leader, they're thinking about it way too much all the time, worried about, the position that you're in and how can they help you grow.
I like that. I like what you just said there. I think that's super important, because that is an important thing, right? You don't feel forgotten about. You want to feel that you're still growing with the company, but you have good leadership that you can look up to, that you can, because it's especially if you've started from I don't want to say started from the bottom, but like you've been in a position for the whole time where it's like, okay, if something more is expected of you, who are you looking up to say, okay, that's a person I'm looking up to, and that's a person I can take some cues from and learn from. But it's about having a little bit of that guidance, because truthfully, I mean, sometimes it's easy to lose a little bit of guidance when so much is happening,
right?
And
the chaos of growth,
so
it's on you to go get what you need.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody, and I know the culture here is amazing, I don't think anybody is ever going to say no. Like if anybody comes to me and says, hey, I want to do this or that. Now, if it can cost me $100,000, probably not.
Yeah.
But if it's something that like, hey, Matt, I really am struggling with, I had a couple of people that were in management that really didn't want to be managers. They wanted to do what they really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And so we were able to sit down and kind of have that candid conversation. And, people have made requests of me. Hey, I want to head this up. Can I veer in this direction, and can I train up my replacement? I don't think I've ever said no to any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so part of it is on them, because of think of the leaders are drinking from a fire hose, just like you're drinking from a fire hose. So we're talking in the generalities here, but you have to make requests as no matter what your rank and level is.
Yeah, you have to speak up. I mean, basically,
for sure.
I think it's easy to put your head down. I think it's easy to maybe accept. You can disagree with changes, and you can disagree with certain things, and you can put your head down and be like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, and you're going to write it out, and you're going to be disgruntled, and you're going to have all these.
But you'd be
feelings.
better off saying, let me create a bigger problem here. So let's just say you're disgruntled because you don't like the direction that your role is in this now chaotic big engine, right? And so rather than getting disgruntled about it, that doesn't going to do any good. Yeah. So why don't you let me sit down on the weekend and let me just write out, okay, what would make me not disgruntled? What would make me fired up?
100%.
And then you show up and you make a request,
I don't think you could have said that any better, Matt.
Yeah, it's weird.
that's like
Yeah,
crazy.
that's,
That's crazy. No, I mean, not
so
that. I mean, I just think that that's
on the money.
That's super on the money. Not necessarily.
It's
for
not
our situation, but I mean, I'm just saying it's on the
Yeah.
money in many people's.
Well, I think a lot of
situations.
us
it's
have
probably
always gone
resonating
through it.
because you're in this growth phase, and
Yeah.
I'm in the growth phase, and so I see it as a
Well,
little
it's what you're
different
thinking.
perspective
Yeah.
than you guys because I'm the founder and the leader.
Yeah.
And so the key is to come again, show up with solutions rather than letting it get letting yourself get left behind. That's what can happen, and then saying, well, what title are you going to give me? I had many employees that would do that. Well, I'll do more work if you give it to me.
Yeah.
And it's, that's not the culture we're building here. How about you tell me what you see and what you would like to do and create a bigger problem and come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And then we can figure out a role and a title. And usually, by the way, that means you get paid a lot more money because now you've created some value, right?
Well, and so I want to ask you something. So, because when we first obviously started, right, we didn't have titles. Nobody had titles, right? It was kind of like, well, I mean,
you're a startup.
it
you're
was-
not even a
you're
company at that
startup.
point.
They
I
avoided
had a company.
I had
it
a
intentionally.
But we intentionally did not choose titles,
Yeah.
and that was the funny part because I think
We had to make
what
business
happened, and
cards,
we
so it
had
was, what are we gonna
we
do?
had a HR company that was doing our HR for us, right? That was
Yeah, yeah.
that was taking care of everything for us. That wasn't internal. So, and that was anything health insurance related, dental,
Called like a
all of that.
PEO or something.
Correct. Where they
And-
take many companies and they sort of put you together like contractors
Yeah.
and
When you're a
plumbers and
small company, it's the best deal you can really get
And-
at a time.
And what happened was they said, hey, you guys got to put your titles in here, and you guys got to put, if you fill out this information, right? I went to Carolyn's office and I said, Carolyn, I don't have a title. What do you want me to put here? And all of us really didn't mean Levi was technically brand development
Well, mine was
manager
business
or
development at the time.
and then Dane always said he was the creative director, and I was like, I don't know what the heck to put in here. Not technically. And she goes, well, we don't really believe in that. So she goes, just put whatever you want, right? I'm like, okay, I don't know, whatever.
golden
I'll put
opportunity,
social
man.
media, social media manager, whatever in there. But for the longest time, it was like that. And then eventually it got to the point where we had a completely different conversation, with leadership and with management of, okay, hey, now we got to start figuring out these titles, right? And
Yeah.
then at that point, it was like, now are these considered to be important, right? At what point, do you consider these titles important? Because is that your do you associate a title with an identity, you personally?
So a title for an owner or a founder or like an executive doesn't really matter. But titles do matter sometimes for rank and file, for the staff, all the way up to upper management. And so, I've had to learn this over the years because I have the same thing, the same question, like, do I need to give people titles? And I had the same thing.
Yeah.
What do we need a title for? I don't need a title. You don't need a title. We're just doing this together. We're rowing the boat together.
Very Matt thing to say. Yeah, I can
But
see
the
that.
thing to keep in mind is that I was talking to Carolyn about this the other night at dinner. I said, it's funny. We're doing this and we have no idea what we're doing. Like you guys may look at them as, but we're all just humans trying to figure it out. And no matter what level of business owner I've ever met, you don't know what you don't know because you've never been there.
Yeah.
And then once you've gotten there, now I'm probably speaking a bit more intelligently now than I did 2 years ago and 2 years before that. But you don't know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know until you get to it and you figure it out. And so the key from to the audience, if you're you're an executive or you're at whatever level you're at in the company, the key is to know that your founder, although he or she may be an amazing leader, they're just trying to figure it out too.
Yeah.
And so you can work together. And if a title means something to you, then make the request. Hey, I would like to have like a clearly defined title. Would that be okay if we came up with something? And I have some ideas. Don't put it on them, on your manager or your director or your founder or your CEO. Don't put it on them.
Yeah.
Say, hey, give me a title. That's giving them a job.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you come up with it and make it up on your own? Now, if you're way off base, give them the room to say, you know what, Anthony, you're way off base.
Yeah.
And so I think that, and then for some people, they don't, it doesn't matter. But the other thing I think that I've asked for leeway from my employees is that, hey, I didn't do this right, but I'd like to change. and please don't hold that against me, because
Yeah.
I didn't know it. Now we know. You've opened up my eyes to something that I wasn't aware of, and now we're going to change that. We're going to improve that, because you don't know what you don't know until you get there. And I have a business coach all the time, and the other day I was like, man, I probably shouldn't tell this, but I'm going to, how I do things. Right? I'm like, man, I'm really scared. I'm really regretting it. I bought this new building, and I'm afraid that I made a mistake because of where it's located.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my business coach, and he's like, well, how's it a mistake? I said, I don't know. It's just something feels a little off to me. And of where I'm going to build this design studio that's on the other side of town, and now my warehouse is going to be far away from me. What if I'm not there every day?
Yep.
And he said, and he just kind of cued me into the fact that, well, how is that a mistake? You're just doing what you're doing, and then you just make adjustments. He's like, so if you have to go down and build this new design studio, just schedule 3 days a week and go up to the HQ.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shoot! I was worried if I'm not there 24/7,
Yep.
then it's a problem. Just little things like that. So now I can go to my team and say, hey guys, look, I know I'd plan on being here 24/7, but my gut is telling me we need to build this design studio. I'm going to be distracted a little bit. Is that okay? And if it's not, let's come up with a solution together.
Yeah.
And so instead of them looking at me like, you idiot, how did you not know this? And really, I've been really working on the culture to make sure that people understand I'm pretty smart. And I think someone that you would want to follow, but I'm not infallible. And so don't hold that against me, and make requests of me if you have a title you're looking for. We're talking about titles, but that could be anything, or you see some opportunity. And if you can have a whole organization that's doing that stuff, man, talk about efficiency and synergy. You can really have a culture that would drive the organization forever.
No, I agree. Yeah, I know. I love that. So in summary there, I mean, I think you said all that very well. And I think there's a lot that probably resonates with a lot of people there, which is awesome.
Well, I'm using you guys to help young men.
No, I think that
young women in business, and
it was I think it was perfectly
and
said.
get something out of you guys that you haven't already told everybody before.
Absolutely. But I mean, main takeaways. I was hurt for a little while, so I had to get through this injury. But main takeaways are still in the videos. Still one of the
one of the faces.
We don't call it faces, but we just call it. Some people call it
faces.
Some people call it talent. Some people call it faces. Sure, I mean, but in the videos. But then on top of that, it's sales stuff. So it's coming up with sale ideas, coming up with things like that. But now more so, I've taken more of a role in product development and kind of going down that rabbit hole.
Just something that ticked in my brain when you said, I wouldn't say still. That implies that you're not good at it, right? So I'm still doing videos. No, I do videos.
No. Sorry, I didn't. Then I didn't mean to say that like that. Then no, I am. No, I love
you. I say what you mean.
No, sorry. I love doing videos, and
you do videos, and you're in videos, and you produce videos, and you do a great job of that, and that's a major role in what you do.
Correct.
So don't demean that, because it's a unique talent.
Thank you.
It really is.
Thank you. No, we have a lot of fun doing it. So no, I don't want to take any more time. So Levi, what is your?
He was getting self-conscious.
What is your
So
role,
remember
sir?
the question. So let me bring you up to speed. The question was, what were your roles? What did you come in as?
Yeah.
And what bring us up to today. And then after we go through this, the follow-up question, so don't answer this yet, would be, what do you see your role in the future?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for those that don't know who I am, I've been a detailer for almost 30 years. I ran my own shop, and when I found the rag company, I was a customer of theirs, and Dane wanted to start making some videos about some products, and they wanted to use my shop as the space, and that's how we got started. Mm-hmm. I started just doing stuff like that, helping your parents with customer service requests because they didn't know about microfiber.
Yep.
So they go, hey, the customers say this towel works for a coating. Do you know what a coating is or what it means? And I go,
we were getting to know microfiber. We didn't know detail.
And I'd go,
you know, manufacturing.
Yeah. And then I'd go, well, I probably wouldn't use that type of towel for a coating. I would recommend this in your lineup for that. And then it got to a point where they were calling me every day, and I'd be running my shop while on the phone with Jeff or Carolyn answering questions all day. Mm-hmm. And it finally got to a spot where Jeff goes, how do I hire someone like you? And I said, let's just hire me. So I sold my shop.
like you.
Was that
Yeah.
your idea?
Yeah. So I sold my shop because I just had a bunch of internal issues and problems with my partners that it was more of a headache than I
You were
wanted.
either going to have to make a pivot or make an
I
adjustment.
was either going to have to buy them out or I was going to have
Someone
to
was gonna
get
have
bought
to change,
out.
yeah.
So the fact that I could, not deal with employees and become my own person and come help a company that I saw growing on the forefront of an industry that I knew everything about, was the reason I came on. When I started, they brought me on as business development. We want somebody to be a salesman, but not a salesman.
What year? Because you guys are the same year.
So I started
Yeah, you charged for 2016.
January 2017. I started in the office in this building.
Funny,
I had been
that's the
working-
month that I started selling stuff.
Yeah,
Exact same time.
but I had been working under the not under the table, but as a part-time employee
right.
Yeah.
for
Off-site.
18 months.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
you were
it.
like a
Previous.
remote position.
Yeah, and that was just through my shop while I was still working. So the first 6 months of that 18 months was us making videos. And then the next year was making videos out of my business
Yeah. Okay.
and answering customer service questions. I had a login. I would go on the email. I'd log into that. I'd do Reddit. I'd do Facebook with Dane. And we just answered microfiber talk. And so when I started, it was all, we don't want you to be like a pushy salesman. We want you to just sell through your videos and sell through your
Education.
experience and education as a detailer.
So you must have just started when
I
we were
did.
standing in line
I
at
literally had been
Mobile
an
Tech.
employee of the company for 6 weeks.
Right. And so you would come, you'd Mobile Tech, and I was standing in line. I didn't know who you guys were. And
Yeah.
Jeff came up, and I think you maybe
I was standing right behind you waiting
knew
in
who
line.
I was and tapped
Yeah.
me on the shoulder, and then Jeff and I started talking,
Yeah.
and the rest is history. Right?
Yeah, and so it was 2017. I was 37.
Yeah.
We're the same age. Kids are
Yep.
the same age, and so for this was a whole new adventure for me.
Yeah.
And so we got going, and it was, hey, let's start doing stuff. And Anthony came on very quickly after that, and the three of us became three peas in a pod. We worked together so well that it was like, oh my gosh, like these were brothers from another mother that I'd never met. And all of a sudden we were able to then create this entire story and who we are based on our videos, but also we were able to create the personality of the rag company. We were able to create the personality of what our towels are and create something fun and exciting. And my job primarily was sales. I'd take orders. I'd talk to customers that maybe were.
You managed
"Hey,
my
I saw-
account for a long time.
saw videos and hey, I'm going to get that. I want to set up a.
Spoke the language of a detailer, so
I want to set up a distribution account and I want to do this and that.
And then EU as well. I mean,
and then
come to Europe and
then set up all of our international and started doing that. And then as the company grew, then we brought on Petro, and I had to shift. I was for a while there. I was kind of doing both. I was still talent, helping out, doing product design, doing
So you're sort of
customer
the technical
service.
director or
That's
technical advisor,
technical
right?
advisor for the company,
Right.
basically.
And still with 1 foot in sales and 1
Yeah.
foot as the answer guy. Right?
Yeah. And so I kind of did a lot of stuff. And then as Petro came in, he kind of took on the majority of sales. And I was able to, okay, I don't have to worry about that. But the one thing that I have that not a lot of people in this industry have, or anybody in this company, is the knowledge base of who's who in the industry, who runs what company, how long they've been there. You know, even as people shift, I know the background and the character of almost every single person that works in this industry. And so I was able to talk to anybody. And Dane, the first time we were at SEMA, his mouth was on the floor because I didn't have any qualms of walking up to somebody and introducing myself.
It was
and saying
Jonathan
hello.
Ward. I was excited to see Jonathan
But-
Ward.
That's just something I've always had as a kid. I mean, I joked I worked at the car wash half a mile down the street here. I grew up half a mile that way. This is my stomping grounds. This is my neighborhood. And so for me, I saw a lot of potential in this business. And I saw, we need to meet this person. We need to meet this person. We need to meet this person. First time Jeff and I went to SEMA, we wrote a list down and I said, we're going to meet this person because of this. We're going to meet this person because of this. And went down and we got it done the first day. And he was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But my job was to grow business and get this company out there, which was a big deal. Now, wearing, as we jokingly used to refer to them as Thanksgiving plates, everybody's got a bunch of plates here. and they need a little bit of food. So we're starting to create these new, hey man, sorry, all the food's gone, but hey, I got 3 platters. Anthony's got 3 or 4 platters, and we start shoveling food onto everybody's plate. And
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
yeah, but it's just like having the 20 hats, but it's a little more fun and more delicious.
It is. I love
So,
Thanksgiving.
the point was that we got to, it was hard going, like I'll tell you, I didn't like giving up my sales position. I enjoyed it because it meant I got to connect with everybody on a weekly basis. But what it transitioned to was find us new brands, find us new companies to work with, find us new stuff. That I really liked. I love being able to talk to a chemist and find out the exact science of the product and why it was manufactured and what it does. I love being able to help develop new products within all these different manufacturers that we work with, and to be friends with all these manufacturers,
right.
and to find out that there are products that Anthony and I have developed, and there are products that the chemist has gone back because I said something in passing and come back and said, I made this new variant for you specifically, and that's what's on sale today, right? And go, whoa, I'm the kid that's been washing cars since I was a little kid, who grew up in a family of detailers, to be a detailer, to now enact change in products around the world for other detailers is insane. I can't believe that that's even a real thing. And that I was able to transition a very blue collar, low education job by running my business, and literally owning my own detail shop is the pinnacle of what I could ever achieve as a detailer. But to go, holy crap, in the last 8 years, I am now at this level solely because I came onto the rag company, is something that I could never in my wildest dreams achieve. And so getting to where we are now and where the company has grown, the hardest thing is trying to figure out, where do I still fit in? I make good videos. I still provide a lot of quality education to customers on how to use a product, what the product's about, and why you need it. Where I go from here, I help Anthony a lot with product development. That's been basically us. That's what we do. But then the biggest thing is, I'm still a face and a persona in the industry.
Still, you can't say still, right?
I am.
You are.
I am.
You
I
are.
didn't even catch that.
Yeah,
I caught
I
that.
am a person in the industry.
There you go.
And so, one, how do I stay current, not lose
How do you
who I
make
am?
sure the organization doesn't outgrow
And
you?
how does the organization not outgrow me?
Right.
Well, my current role, and what's been my role for the last 5 years, was when I started transitioning out of sales, was going to Carolyn and literally going, all right, mine says business development manager, my title. Josh Petro says international business development manager, but I'm in charge of all of these things. So what are we going to do? And Josh was, well, I'll keep mine. That's fine. Where do I go? Because I do product design, I do this, name off all this stuff. So Carolyn goes, the one thing you're really good at is relationships. Everybody knows you. You know everybody's name. You're the entry point. You're the guy going, hey, welcome to the rag company. Come on in.
You've
Can
got
I get
the memory.
you? Can I get you a soda?
So
How's your
what do
kids? How's your wife?
What do you do with that?
So I transitioned to what we created was brand development. My job is to find new brands, figure out how we're going to utilize them, how we're going to sell them, and then bring them to market for our customers. Now, I still kind of have that role, but it's how do we maximize it, or how do we transition? Do I stay am I fitting now more into a product development and we bring on somebody else to handle that? Or is it because people trust me? The level of trust in the industry is so high because people go, oh no, Levi knows this. Levi's this guy.
So are you asking yourself that
That's
question?
me, a lot of it.
Or
No,
are you
I'm-
asking
I'm-
somebody else that
No,
question?
I'm continually asking myself that question because
So you're coming up with the answer
I have
to
to
yourself.
figure it out.
Right?
Yeah.
It's great to ask the question, as long as you don't transition that question to somebody else to say, hey, you tell me what I'm supposed
Right,
to do, because then
exactly.
you end up with a job that you hate.
right, exactly.
You know?
And
That's what I'm always telling my young guys. Tell me what you want to do, and we'll see if we can figure out how to do
well,
it.
and I also look at it and I go, for better or for worse, the three of us traveled the world together and been brothers for, when his daughter was born. He called me that night, and I told him, "Hey, man,
Yeah, we're the first people
this
to
is
call.
how it is as a dad. This is your first night with your kid is a special moment, right?" But I'm also 10 years older than them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at it and go, here's where I am. You guys are 10 years behind me in life. What do I want to do to maybe either be some form of a leadership position in the sense of an older brother, or as a friend who's been through it? And that's been also one of the most challenging things, is just trying to be helpful and not be not like, I don't like it because you talk to me like an older brother and I'm the little brother, and treat me as a colleague, right?
Mm-hmm.
I work with you. And so we've had all these times where we have to figure out exactly who we are together as a group and what we actually want to do. Because back in the day, it was us rowing, and we were right there with everybody, and there was 9 of us in this little Viking longship, and we were going, right? And now we've got a cruise liner, and all of us are like, man, did you know there's a fire on the 4th deck? And did anybody know about it? No, I didn't know about it. Like,
there's a hole in the floor.
So it's trying to go, how do we get back to that ability where we feel like we're part of the company still moving? And how do we provide that value to the company and to our customers, to where we feel like this is this thing's rolling and we're part of it and we're having fun and we're enacting the change and helping grow the brand as best as we can.
So both of you, I'm hearing, you know who you are. You know yourself very well. And that's it's not uncommon, but it's not common for people to really know who they are and what you're good at, right?
Well, it's taken a lot of work and a lot of therapy.
And it should. I mean, same here. I mean, once a week with a darn lady to help me figure out who the heck I am and what I'm about.
No, I'm right there with you, brother.
And so, and that's great. I mean, that's a commitment that not everybody commits to.
Yeah.
And so, be thinking, I'm going to come back to you guys, but I want to hear Dane's story.
I'll keep mine short.
No, Dane, I'm not letting you off the hook.
Really quick though, before you move to Dane, I do want to say though, I want to give Levi credit here, because I one thing that he skimmed over a little bit is that a lot of the relationships that we do have today, a lot of the business relationships, a lot of the things that have happened, as a business because of us, or not because of us, happened as a business, were really because of how genuinely how friendly he is, and him opening that door. We kind of talked about how he's the person that you want to talk to, you want to be friends with. I mean, I'm not that friendly, right? And I can't remember people's names very well. Dane is very friendly. Definitely can't remember people's names very well, right?
Not.
But Levi was definitely that person that really held that door open for a lot of opportunity to get us where we are today. Because just remember the Rennie Doyle thing, right? Mm-hmm. You did not know if you would be friends with Rennie Doyle, right?
I thought these guys are not for me.
Everybody here, right? Who was the most confident they'd be friends with Rennie Doyle? This man right here, right?
Yeah.
And he would be, friends with the PNS team, and it was just really cool to see that happen. So I got to give credit where it's due that he was able to do that, and it was awesome to honestly just to witness. It's always awesome witnessing anybody he runs into, but the confidence that he has in that.
So the key thing to also remember, just some of the things you guys are saying are just sparking things that I think about, because I'm coming out from a different perspective than you guys are. To not keep score on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't keep score
it's hard to do
with my employees, and I hope that and I'm trying to coach them to not keep score with me, because without me, they don't have an opportunity, right? But without them, we don't get anything done.
Yeah.
And so if you're keeping score, then it's like, well, I created this, and I made that sale, and I made this connection, and I swept that floor, and I put the tile in, and what did you do for me? Mm-hmm. And then I'm thinking, well, I gave you a freaking job. You wouldn't have been able to do any of that without me, and I invested in you. And oftentimes, some of these guys, they were living in their mom's basement, proverbially, right?
Right, yeah.
And so
basements are nice.
The key is to not keep score, right?
Yeah.
And if you can stay in the I'm not keeping score here, I appreciate it's an equal exchange in value. The company gives you an opportunity, and if you can focus on how can I contribute to the company, and just trust that the company will take care of me. And sometimes you need to make a request. Sometimes you need to say, hey, look, this may not be the right time, but I just want to let you know where I'm at. I really feel like I deserve a little bit of a bump here, you know, and I don't want to put it on you right this minute. Or I'll do the same thing with an employee. Like, I need you to step up here because I did bump you. And so being honest in that conversation without a scorekeeping thing, like, hey, I'm paying you too much, or hey, you're paying me too little, or hey, you asked too much of me. If you can stay out of that and remember on both sides that, man, I got an opportunity because of my leader, and then the leader thing, man, I wouldn't have gotten to where I've gotten without
But that, and
you,
that's
you know?
literally what I mean. Like, I can't imagine where I would have been if I was still running my detail shop. I probably have a pretty successful detail shop, making some good money, and been fine.
Broken body, right?
Fully broken body, because that first year after detailing it,
Not
I
much
felt
left.
it. But to go, wow, this catapulted me so much farther than I could have ever imagined, and it was because of the magic of what all of us here built together.
The opportunity given for you to then leverage and grow your talent, and then as a team, as an organization, as a group, that you all win together. So Dane, you have a much. I'm gonna challenge you a little bit.
He's in a different, a little bit of a different category.
But tell us the story here. First of all, Dane is the son.
Yeah,
of
I've
the
got
founders.
the
Call him the
Nepo
Prince of the
baby
Rag Company.
title, whatever you want to throw at me in the end. I'm highly conscientious of my position in the whole thing, so don't worry, you wouldn't tell me anything I haven't heard already. But when it comes down to it, I'll say some things that, like, my involvement with the company, that I swear I'm not trying to make myself seem more important than I am. I really take the humble tack with this, because
He does.
like you say,
He does. I can verify that.
you saying the not keeping score thing resonates so much with me, because there are so many opportunities where I look and go, I don't like treating life like a zero-sum game. I don't like treating my relationships as transactional. I don't like looking at things that way in general. That's just not the kind of person I am, and I think these guys would agree.
You're an artist.
They
right?
see that.
That comes naturally.
I'm a
right?
big, sappy, soggy creative type. So, I'm not probably exactly the wrong kind of person to have talking about any kind of, like, financial savvy or anything like that.
Your keeping score is measured in emotions. Right?
Yeah. I'm a very vibes-based person, so we got that. But when it comes down to it, the long and short of it is, I was working 2 jobs. I'm a college dropout, by the way, so there's that too.
Okay.
I tried 4 different colleges, including a film school, which was great fun. But just really classroom stuff did not stick for me. I like being out in life, doing stuff, working, being artistic, that kind of thing. But ultimately, I was working for Home Depot. I was doing a traveling gig, merchandise execution. I was on a small team. We would travel to several different locations. And I mean, you build signs and stuff, but you're kind of doing marketing also. And it's a lot of, like, hands-on semi-construction work. You're not like a regular store employee, so to speak, because you're moving between them all. But we were kind of like a weird floating position thing. In addition to that, separate from that was my full-time gig. Then additionally, I had a part-time gig where I was ordering supplies for the ER, the emergency room, for multiple hospitals here in the St. Luke's system. And that was just kind of my side thing, because frankly, Home Depot didn't pay very well on that stuff, and I was just, making ends meet. I'm a huge car nerd, so that's how I tie into all this different stuff, is as a huge automotive enthusiast, that's where I come at this stuff more than anything. These guys have the detailing. I didn't have a detailing bone in my body, and they know that.
You like the machine, right? The artistry and the craftsmanship of the machine.
As a kid, I was always looking up those books, how it's made, watching those documentaries and how things work, that kind of stuff. And while I may not have necessarily been an engineer, because math was never my strong suit, I at least had a fascination with all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm driven by. That's really what I'm into. And I can be an encyclopedia on car stuff. That's more my niche. But as far as how I find my way to the rag company, that was something where in late 2012, going into early 2013, there's that time period where you probably heard the story before, the rag company, Bev and Dale, the original owners of the company, who started it in 1999, carried it up through 2012 going into 2013.
They were doing it in their garage,
when
right?
we acquired it. Yeah, so they were in a garage. It was a husband-wife team. They were basically retirees. This was kind of like a retirement project of sorts. It was a way to stay busy, make some extra money as a part of that. But it was a small garage business. But they had some interesting, clients and people they were selling to, which we later found because half of it wasn't digital. It was like written in notebooks and stuff because Dale had been a CPA and he had been more of the writes notes type than necessarily using a computer all the time. So they were just getting around to being digital. So essentially it was a family friend told us about the company essentially being up for sale because unfortunately Bev, she was finding herself in hospice.
Gotcha.
It was like a muscular degenerative kind of thing, really unfortunate.
She couldn't do the job anymore, couldn't do the business anymore.
And her strong suit had always been customer service. So she was always just a really compelling person to talk to, really, really nice lady. Like she clearly knew how to develop relationships with people, kind of like what we were talking about with Levi. She was really good at just tapping into what people needed and being able to work off that. So that's kind of where the original like sourcing of some of the customers and some of the original like factory relationships and stuff for microfiber, that's where it all starts. But as far as me coming into the picture, I'm like patient zero. I'm the original employee of the rag company in the form as everybody here pretty much knows it. So right around the time we took it over, it was essentially because they offered it to their family. Nobody was interested. Everybody looked and saw, garage business. There's a bunch of boxes in a garage. It's not exactly like a turnkey storefront or something exciting like that. And everybody just looked and said, that looks like work and it's probably going to fail anywhere. The attitudes were not there for success. So they had a mutual family friend who was kind of like, things aren't looking good over here. I'd like to help them. Maybe I can see if someone else would be interested. My folks, they've been traveling musicians early on in their careers. When I was born, they were still doing that life on the road, that kind of thing. That's where I grew up. Maybe that's why I'm a creative person. But apart from that, they stopped. They went to school around the time that I was a few years old, and they got corporate gigs after that, through internships and eventually working at like Warehouser, Super Value. And my mom got into echocardiography. She was doing that kind of thing in different health systems throughout Washington State. And then we moved our way to Boise eventually in 2001. Anyway, I'm going way back. But besides the point, I jump around a lot.
You're good.
Part of the thing. Anyway, when it comes down to it, the business needed to go somewhere. And they didn't have a ton of money saved up. I mean, it was like retirement savings and stuff you're not supposed to put anywhere besides retirement. And they just looked and they said, well, we've wanted to get out of corporate gigs for a long time. We always thought it would be cool to own a franchise or do some kind of like small business thing. This seems interesting. Let's give it a look. So basically they sent me to go job shadow and they said, we will not buy this business or do anything unless you are okay with it, because you would have to be the employee because we can't just quit our jobs right now. We have to keep working. But we would do like books at night. So if you can go job shadow with Dale and understand how it works, all the shipping, all the stuff like that, that's what I did. I went in there for a few weeks. I stood by Dale as he showed me. Yeah, no, I did all this stuff. So I was learning how to use his system on the computer and the way
you
all
have to
the
think
orders
of
and
Dane.
everything.
Yeah, you have to think of Dane. We know Dane so well, so like it's so funny because we go,
almost.
Dane did this. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like it is. It's a big thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
No. I appreciate that.
Because this would have been, what, 2011, 2012?
2012, yeah. So 2012, December 2012, essentially. But yeah, so I was just getting familiar with how their stuff worked because I'd never done a business like that before. I'd always worked, the retail jobs, the customer service stuff, food industry. Like
This was in their garage.
If I had any expertise, I was a retail master. I could do customer service like nobody's business, which turned out to be very helpful for this job. But when it came down to it, though, we did end up making an offer, and it was to Dale, who then had to go talk to Bev because she couldn't be on the phone at the time. And it was essentially a will they, won't they kind of thing, because we thought, this is what we can offer. We're not doing some kind of tactic here by offering a small amount.
This is what we got.
It was just,
More
this is what we can do.
Yeah.
And while Dale initially looked and said, well, he said kind of a hesitant no at first. And then they went off, and then he came back. He goes, but before I say no, I've been married long enough. I know I need to ask. Anyway, I just need to go throw it at her, see what she thinks. She ended up saying, well, one condition. will you actually try to make this a business? Will you actually try to make a run at this, truly carry on the legacy that we started? Or are you just going to take the inventory that's there and
Sell it off,
pitch it, sell it, and just make a quick buck and go? Because if that's the case, you can obviously see they would have said, no, thank you. And I wouldn't have blamed them one bit. But in this case, my parents were right. They said, no, we're actually serious. We want to try this. And of course, they're not going to do it unless I say yes. So it was really dependent on me to say, I will do these things. I will learn this job. I will do this. And after seeing it, the creative part of my brain, and even though, once again, I'm not like the super business savvy entrepreneur type, but I had the creative side where I looked and went, here's an amazing opportunity where this thing has, it's small enough, but established enough. The identity isn't fully baked in yet as to how it looks, how it feels. I see a lot of artistic opportunities here. I see a lot of different ways their social media barely exists. I can do some stuff with that. And so I just saw these possibilities and I'm like, well, it's not going to happen overnight, but I can at least try at this. And that's what made me say yes. So that's what got me in the door, was actually kind of a creative avenue of looking at it. And ultimately, I would say it's ended up being a pretty good decision.
You came up with the concept of naming the town.
So the rag company name already existed. However, the logo, I made the logo most people are familiar with. So there's that. As far as like our social media, I created the original accounts for YouTube and Reddit and Instagram and all those things. And Anthony obviously saw that my Instagram savvy was not the greatest. I would just go to car shows and take pictures of cars I liked and post them.
There's not one towel picture on the whole thing.
No towel pictures whatsoever. It was just hilarious.
there's a picture of a sticker.
I took a picture of a sticker design.
The logo, and put it on his car.
Didn't you make like one of the original clips or something, videos go viral, something?
So he had, that was one of the things. So Dane, and we do have
It worked on him.
We have a joke where Dane, we always joke that Dane does his best work sitting down.
That's right.
And so but what Dane did was he would have to answer all these customer service questions, and he got really frustrated because he's like, I hate typing these. It's the same question over and over again. And so he reached out to Gabe, who was a high school videography teacher
And a family friend. He was my brother's best friend.
But he said, hey, I need to borrow your camera. You didn't have a camera.
Right. I'd sold all
Gabe
my...
that I've been working with?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd
So he
sold all
called up-
my film school gear and stuff,
Yeah.
so I didn't have that anymore.
So he called Gabe and said, hey, I need to borrow a camera. And Gabe's like, well, I'll bring a camera from school and we'll just film a video. And that's how they started the first 2 videos, was with Dane doing that.
Yeah.
And then that led to Junkman finding it.
Yeah.
And then Junkman making a video about the eagle. And when that happened, that's when the whole, like it, and Anthony and I were customers at that point when that just like took off like wildfire.
I'd watch the Junkman's videos.
That's part of the reason why I wasn't really in rag company.
And sure, you were kind of like,
Opposite of me.
This guy
I didn't dislike
Junk.
Junkman. It was just, he was the opposite of me.
100%.
opposite of what you were kind of into. And I totally get that. Now, funny thing about that was he called me in advance before he ever made that video. I just get a call on the phone, which, by the way, for those who don't know, in addition to like, okay, I made the logo, I redesigned our website, I took the pictures of all the products, like every job that's here at this company, I essentially did the micro version of it first. So I was like the guinea pig for all
Packing
these
boxes,
things. Yeah, basically packing. But I packed
UPS
orders,
returns,
I shipped stuff out, all that stuff. So while they don't believe it, they're like, oh, okay. But parents run the company. I'm sure you did a lot of work.
No, but you did it during the day, and then your parents would come home from their jobs, and they'd, hey, what orders do you got to finish packing? And they'd help do that. Or, hey, can you get these orders?
So the first few
built or
months,
sent or whatever.
it was me doing that, and then there was a second employee. She was the daughter of the family friend who actually was able to find these guys in the first place, the company, and so she worked with me, and she helped packing and shipping as well. And then from there, we just had a long period where it was us until that Junkman video, when suddenly we started getting a ton of orders.
You called
and
all your friends,
were not
and
able to
family
keep
and
up
aunts and uncles
with
and
the
cousins
volume.
and-
What we thought was going to be maybe the rest of our year's worth of Eagle Edgeless, or at the time, I mean, they essentially were just 41016-1616-BL, that kind of thing. Oh boy, how do I still remember that? Anyway, that was essentially what that towel was. They all sold out in a course of like a month or two when they should have lasted a good 8 more months.
Right.
So that was a very new experience for us. And we just frantically called anyone and everyone like, do you feel like packing some stuff? Do you want to be an employee? for a little while? Do you want to help us? And they're kind of like, yeah, I got nothing going on. And next thing we know, like Gabe gets involved and these guys, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But that's what was kind of the catalyst. What was that? He basically called me a month before he made the video or whatever, saying, oh man, I finally found these towels. I've been looking forever. The last time I said something about these towels in a video on my YouTube channel, they sold out. So I'm just telling you, look out, it might happen. And of course I'm like, okay, it's just some guy talking, because in case you didn't know, I was the guy answering the phones too. I was doing the phone thing, all that stuff. But
so what do you do now? What is your title now?
Now I've kind of gone on a big arc where eventually, like we said, we got to doing the videos. The media department was my baby. I was so excited to be able to start doing the video production stuff. And I really think that's where we became more relevant with the detailing community, because we became visible that way.
Yep.
The videos were a way to reach out to them. So that was me shooting all those Wash Wednesdays with the rigs I built. Anthony knows how that goes. And a lot of the videos I shot with Levi, apart from the early ones in your shop, which we did with Gabe, which were kind of like set up
Gabe's
at station.
All of his students. And,
But you preferred the
But after
behind the
that-
camera,
Yeah.
the audio, the video, the how it looked, how it felt.
He's really good at that. I
And
mean,
so you made these guys stars, right?
Basically.
They were already stars.
Yes, in a way. That they
we
made
were
themselves
stars in our own eyes,
Yeah.
but he made us stars.
I helped show the
We wouldn't
rest
have
of
done
the
any of
world that
this.
you were capable of it.
But
There
we
you
wouldn't have
go.
done any of this if Dane hadn't been the one that's saying, hey, let's go make a video about that. Or that would make a great video.
Yeah.
You know, and
I trusted you guys to help me with ideas detailing related, because I didn't understand
your
that
thing,
world
right.
as much. I knew cars, but unfortunately I can't just make car videos all day long. I got to do something about detailing. So it was a way to branch off. And now since then I've learned so much more. But like you're asking, what do you do now? So in that whole arc, I took us from creating the media department, which eventually we got more people in here staffing it, took away some of the jobs that I used to do. And frankly, I think they do a better job than I did, when now we're kind of a well-oiled machine. And I really appreciate like the skills, like what Jimmy, Glenn, Nick, Gabe, Seabass, Anthony Blaine, all these guys bring to the team. It's awesome. And really what we do now, could not do it without them. They're really a critical piece of this whole thing. But because they took over all those positions that I used to kind of just be the guy who wore a lot of hats, I did all that stuff, my role has seemingly diminished, but it actually hasn't, because my real role, because we have a web team now, like all these things that I used to do have now been turned into departments and stuff, made more official. And so my position now is essentially glorified thumbnail maker, vibes police, all that kind of stuff. I essentially call myself the media janitor, because when everybody else has got their specific things they're worried about, I can fill in on pretty much any role that's
put it
needed.
all
If you need to
together,
run a
right.
camera, I'll come help do that. If you need to help edit something, I'm happy to come help do that. Live stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of those things.
and
But
you're
right
also
now, the
great-
podcast is my baby. So developing the podcast, doing
and
that
that's
kind of
always
thing
been
is
your
my
baby.
interest.
Like,
I
that
love
was your idea in the first place, was coming to your dad and saying, I want to do a podcast. I'm going to use all the old audio.
And everybody's like, who's going to listen to you talk about towels
We're going to do this
for hours?
Yeah.
That's stupid.
So that's a great little segue there, in that think of yourself like the owner's son, and you say, I want to make a podcast. So I want this to be my title. I want this to be my role.
Yeah.
You don't say it that way, but
Right.
you come with a solution. So I'm not going to let you off the hook yet, Dane.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I'm dancing around it.
So are you the next CEO? Are you the next?
Boy, we're going
He's
there.
throwing. Hey,
He's
you're on the
going
hot seat.
in for the kill.
Because I know you, and
Oh, yeah.
I know your mom well, and your dad well, and
Yep.
you're not the managerial type. Right?
No, and that's not any affront on my personal feelings. I 100% agree. That's something
you
where
don't like
I have-
that.
I enjoy doing the work. I've never been afraid of hard work or doing that kind of stuff. I'm into it. But if there's one thing I go, I'm not really into that, it's telling other people what to do. If it's in the context of making a video, I'm a director. I'm happy to do that.
And producing
But
it,
in the
right.
context of being the creative director, I mean, there's different ways people use that title. For me, I'm not applying any sort of authority over other people if I can help it. If there's certain instances where I kind of have to, okay, fine. I don't want to lord it over people. I'm just not comfortable with that kind of stuff. you know? But
Why try to fit a square peg into a round hole?
and
if
exactly.
you know yourself.
because I know myself, I know my personality type. I'm not not to say I couldn't inspire people to be interested in stuff, but I don't think I'm inspiring like leadership in that way. I just being honest with myself, I don't think that's where I fit into this stuff. So I'm being real, but yeah,
But
that's essentially it.
But Dane, though, I mean, you gotta give you credit though. You were probably the best person when the waters are divided or whatever it may be. I mean, shoot, even if it's just a general question or, hey, what do you think about this? What's your opinion on this? Right? He's pretty much the best person to ask. Of the entire office, he's neutral, but he's also like he's opinionated.
I have very strong opinions,
but his ideas are good though. I mean, it's not like I don't think he's ever thrown out a bad idea. So everything that he says is good, and it all comes from the heart. And I think that we appreciate that he can be so open and transparent and honest because. Some people just want to say things to please people, and he'll just be honest with you, but he'll do it in the nicest way, and I think we appreciate that.
Speak softly, but carry a big stick.
Right? That's my move.
Yeah.
It's literally Thank you, Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah. But as far as he said, if I were to look, it's not a real title, but if I were to say I'm anything here, I want to say, and this is going to sound, wow, okay, sure, Dane. I think I'm the soul of this company. I think that's where I truly fit in. I think... if I talk about being the vibes police, that kind of thing, that's really where I see my role. It's not an official position. It's not any of that stuff. But for as long as this company goes on, I mean, I'm probably going to be involved with it. I have a direct reason to be.
You're growing into a leader, my friend. I know you don't want it.
I'm the soul.
Well,
I will take
10 years from now.
Yeah.
You're growing into a leader.
Move into that space.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's what the job calls for, I would be willing to do it, but it wouldn't be my first choice.
I like that you said
that's
you're
the exact
soul.
person that you want to lead.
Yeah. So, make of that what you will. But that's where I really, truly see myself. My title is creative director, but realistically, I'm not that kind of creative director. So really,
Understood.
I go where I'm needed. I do what's needed to be done, and I leave it at that.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anthony, back to you. What do you? I know you're chomping at the bit. You probably have lots of thoughts going on.
I have no thoughts.
Tell us what you're thinking.
I'm vibing out. What am I thinking? Thinking this is a good time. Having good conversations. I like this. This
I
is good.
really enjoyed this.
I think this is great. I think this is completely different than what I thought we were going to talk about. I thought we were talking about cabinets and flooring, and I thought we were going to dip into a little bit of business, but mostly about towels or what do you think of the best detailing products?
This is a great conversation.
I'm just thinking about, it just occurred to me while we're in this. I didn't come into this with any plan at all, so I'm not trying to ambush you.
Yeah.
I just started thinking, I'm like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And then thinking about the growth of the company and how different it is since last time I was here. And then I just don't think I've ever heard you guys talk about this kind of stuff and the actual business side of thing. And I think all the people listening can relate to that even more than, hey, what towel are we going to use, or what cabinet are we installing? It's just, I think that's why people are watching this stuff. So where do you guys think that the rag company is 5 years from now?
5 years from now. It's just long enough that it may tap into something I hope happens, but not too far. I think this place we're in is great, but I would love for us to have a new building that we control, that we build from the ground up, that we do something big with it. If we were able to do something like that, that would be huge in my eyes.
You think it would be one large building?
I think it would be kind of like this is like a complex where maybe you have other businesses up front, that kind of thing, help pay the rent, that sort of thing would be very helpful. But for those who aren't aware, like people see us as like, oh, that's your complex, that's your building. But the reality is it's not ours. Like we
leasing it,
we
right?
lease.
Yeah.
So when I originally found this building, and the commercial loop net, that whole thing, it was one of the cheaper options available because this area wasn't particularly desirable at the time we were looking.
Well, it had fallen into disrepair because it was a construction company that shuttered a bunch of businesses.
So I wanted to point out that in addition to, okay, maybe it looks impressive today, but while we talked about like these huts were rough and we fixed them up, that building over there was
abandoned for
no
6
spring
years.
chicken either. It was rough. There were cobwebs everywhere. Everything was just covered in a fine layer of dirt and dust. And if you went out to the main warehouse, the entire ceiling was caked in diesel soot because they were running all these trucks and stuff inside
the building.
And this is where I got to shout out John Green, big man on campus, John Green. We call him Chief. And he got up on a genie lift, scissor lift, got up there. He scrubbed those ceilings.
He would ride his bike. The man would ride his bike from his house to here in the mornings to get on a genie lift and clean the ceilings for about an hour or hour and a half. And then he would come back down, hop on his bike, and ride to the old location.
Yeah.
Another like 2 miles down the road, and then work a full day.
Yeah.
And then hop in the Suburban with your dad. Mm-hmm. They'd throw his bike in, and then they'd drive back here, and they'd work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, cleaning the ceilings, sometimes later. And then they'd take John home, and then he'd ride his bike because he was in the best shape of his life. Back then,
Get that farm strength.
But he would do that every day to get this place ready. He would lay stuff. You were there, and your mom and your dad
mopped walls. We took optimum no
the four
rinse,
of
and
you
we took buckets and we literally mopped the walls.
But the
just
four
to
of you were
clean
doing
everything
that
in
to
this
get
building.
this.
Don't get too far from his question of.
Yeah,
where do you
sorry.
see yourself
Hold on,
five years?
Let me correct my perception here.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm outsider here looking in. John Green is a classic example of grow with the organization.
100%.
Was John not very qualified, not highly educated? Like when he came in, he didn't come from Harvard or something.
No,
like
he
In the
was a
traditional
manager
sense.
of another business that was being shuttered. Jeff and Dane went to go pick up some shelving from this. From
I should
the
point out, he was
fire
not
sale.
responsible for any of the mistakes that
no, but
company
he was.
made.
But he was the guy helping close the business down.
Yes.
for
yes.
that
So
company.
John was a worker.
he was a worker.
And now John is like the right hand, isn't
Right.
he? So he's
Yeah.
grown.
Yeah, no, he's way up there.
He's-
because through sheer hard work, understanding, he's an excellent person at reading other people.
Yeah.
But when we found him, he was a guy who was just kind of helping dictate, oh yeah, move those over there, move this.
Yeah.
When we went to the saddle shop that was closing down.
Yeah.
And he
One of my favorite lines was your dad said he was like a waiter who
Yeah.
comes up to a
Yeah.
table with 10 people, and everybody tells him their orders, and he doesn't write anything down. And
knows.
there's tons of substitutions, and everybody, hey, don't put this on, take this off mine, add this, add that. But the whole time he's not taking anything down. But he was at that auction listening to every single customer, and then comes back and delivers those plates of food to everybody's table, and it's perfect. Everything is right.
The street smarts
And that
are
was the
where
one
he
thing that
really
impressed
excels.
your dad was he goes, man, that guy hustled and knew his stuff. And so he asked him, hey, what are you doing after this when this closes down? And he goes, I don't know. I
didn't
got
have
some
a plan.
options, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll figure it out. And Jeff went back the next day and gave him his card and said, give me a call. I might have a job for you. And he came on as the store manager when they first opened over there.
Yeah.
So 5 years from now, you'll obviously continue to grow the
Yes.
business is the goal, and then
Yes.
possibly have some sort of compound that is wholly owned and built bespoke from scratch.
This, but more hours without the
Yeah.
extra side traffic that we don't have control over.
Yeah.
Something that we could, I would hope, host car events at, stuff like that. Because if I were to say, and this maybe ties into your 5 years question, I've always felt like the shortcoming in our business, as far as how we've gone about this so far, we've never really, for better or for worse, we've just never really had a good time trying to tap into the local market, among other things. I've always felt like there's so much potential there, but everything we try to do is just a little bit difficult because of, say, our parking arrangement and stuff. Our kind of olive branch right now has been the opening of the store MVP over here, Detail Supply. They're kind of, like you were asking, like, well, is this yours or is this theirs? It's MVP's, but it's kind of our official outlet store. It's where they buy from us, but they don't have to pay to really ship it because, hey, you just get the product sent right over the parking lot.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've been going to the gym, CrossFitting, and I was at REI, and I've had probably a dozen people ask me, hey, what are you doing here? And I'd mentioned the rag company, and only one of the 12 knew who the rag company was.
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised.
Did they
to hear that.
actually know, or are they going?
No,
Oh yeah.
he knew the owner of the CrossFit gym. I
Okay,
guess
okay.
he used to be down the street here, Boise CrossFit.
Okay.
Okay.
And so he drove by here, so we knew, also
Okay,
on
gotcha.
State Street or
So it's my personal belief we could do a lot better on that
right.
front.
There's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
So 5 years, the possible compound would be kind of cool, and to work on that and build it from scratch and build your own studio.
Maybe enlist your help in the process.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be down for that. And maybe 5 years from now, it's about the same amount of time I've been here last time. I'll come out and we'll revamp it all over again. Just
Why not?
Keep redoing it. I like redoing stuff.
New content.
So while you're off the hot seat now, so if
Okay.
you can queue up a few questions for us.
Yeah, I've been
while
seeing
we,
a few here. Let me
while
see.
we kind of chat on the side here.
Go for it.
So let's say there was a new compound. I mean, what would you guys think about that?
What I think? Oh, I'd be super excited.
Yeah,
I think.
Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
How could sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. How could you play a role in making sure that, because when you move, and I've just experienced this, when you move, moving's fun, moving's great, but you got a business.
Yep.
How would you keep the business growing and moving forward while moving into or building a new facility, not get sidetracked?
I think that realistically what would probably happen is if something new were to be built or something newer to be happening, this place right here, this place would continue to be a running machine, this media studio. And that's what's kind of nice, is that this particular thing can be separated from the rest of the complex, right?
So that
And
you'd be doing the sales, basically,
Yeah,
keep the sales
so
going.
we could keep this machine going through what we do best, obviously. But I mean, I think, that transitioning piece logistically, getting, inventory, getting all that stuff, at that point in time, I think that our new system, our new inventory system and all that stuff will be well in place. I think that things will be a little bit smoother in general, right? Scan guns, all that fun stuff.
Yep.
So I think that transition will be much easier in 5 years than it would be like right now if we were to do that. But I think from a media standpoint, from a sales standpoint, and from a marketing standpoint, I still think that we could continue to do some pretty amazing and awesome stuff. I mean, if we need to go back to being scrappy, we can go back to being scrappy, even if it's just for, a couple months, weeks, or whatever it is. It's not like we have to have this perfect place to be able to do everything. We're pretty good on the fly, and we're pretty good at pivoting.
Yeah, I agree. We've got an amazing warehouse team. Like our whole shipping and receiving and fulfillment and Amazon and all those, that team works so hard. Yeah. And you never hear them complain. And every single one of them, when Anthony and I walk by, it's weird to go from a small company to a big company where we'll have a big company meeting and we don't even know who some of the new people are. And we're like, who's that person? When did we hire that person? And when did we hire this person? And it's odd because we used to be able to know, we knew everybody. And there's still times where we'll go around just to introduce ourselves to some of the new people, just to say hi. And sometimes they know who we are, sometimes they don't. But it is just trying to get to know everybody, because at the end of the day, you're right. It's just more rowers on the ship.
Yeah,
everybody's trying to move this thing along, and those guys have been instrumental in the managing the amount of growth we've had, because it's the weirdest thing to think about is since 2019, we've basically built 3 new rag companies. So of what our 2019 strength was, to go, we're going to triple that now. And to go, we built another 2 more rag company, but like that is just wild to me.
Yeah.
To go, holy cow, like when you break it down like that to what it is.
So I had a few here for you, Matt. Some of this is from your audience, so it's going to be more directed at you.
Sure.
But let's see, I've got Aaron here saying, hey, Matt, are you going to add any other items to the giveaway? I'm looking forward to buying a ceramic coating kit.
No, the thing that I've explained this many times. The difficult thing about doing a giveaway, let's say I sell $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give away a $30,000 thing. if I go next month but I have employees, I have a mortgage, I've got, expenses, we got to buy inventory, got to do all these things. And so if I sell the next month, those same $100,000 worth of things that I normally sell, and I give away a $30,000 thing,
Right.
I'm probably going to lose money. I know I'm going to lose money. I'm going to be 30,000 in the hole.
Right.
And so what I have to do with the giveaway is I have to find things that are different to convince them to buy $130,000 worth of stuff, so that way, or actually it's more like $190,000 worth of stuff, so that I can then give away that $30,000 thing.
Yeah.
And so people are always
have money
looking
in the
for
kitty
me.
to buy another.
They're always looking for me to just take, all right, why don't you take your ceramic coatings, or why don't you take your Rag Company towels and just throw them in the giveaway? Why not? Because I need you, and I've had this conversation with the audience, I need you to buy it anyway. I need you to buy what you were going to buy anyway so that I can exist. Larry Kosilla says this a lot. You want the businesses that you want to frequent to be in business and make a profit, because then they'll stay in business. And so I'm asking wholeheartedly, honestly, the audience, would you please still buy what you normally buy, and then buy something extra so we can do this fun thing? And my hope is that at the end of the day, I can profit a little bit on that giveaway thing as well. So for me to just take all the things in the store and just throw it up there in the giveaway and sell the same $100,000 I was going to sell means I'm going to go bankrupt.
Yeah,
So
rather than an either-or situation.
that's why we do knives and we do hats and we do special items, usually that have a little higher margin, and I try to garner interest. And the point of doing the giveaway, especially a garage giveaway, is I'd love to be able to tell the whole story and then take them through the whole design and go out and install it. Yeah. And hopefully that gets new attention and new followers. And so to answer your question as nicely as I can't really do that because I would go out of business.
That's fair.
That's a good way to put it.
Then I've got another one here from Zeke, or Zek, however he likes to go by. When are you going to get your 911 GTS daily? Is that hybrid thing even on sale yet?
Yeah, probably not anytime soon. I'm thinking about selling my house and moving to Michelle's house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they'll stop the divorce rumors. There's a lot of people.
I was going to say, when that happened, I'm sure there were
They
comments.
think that, well, we're just putting on the nice for the camera, right? That it really, we're living separate. We're just doing it for the kids.
Cordial, yeah.
So I don't know if you guys know the story, but the Villages is the giant retirement community. You've all been there. It's crazy, right? You've stayed in it. It's like Disneyland for retirees.
I think it was a good time.
Well,
And so for the first time ever, the Villages built a community contiguous inside the Villages for families as well. Right, so you can move in there as a family.
Okay.
And all the other homes were no kids allowed. 55 plus. You could live there if you were younger, if you didn't have kids, but no kids.
Yeah, but it's a nice community,
right? And so they have this amazing infrastructure. Now they're building cookie cutter homes, so you're not building some big fancy custom home, but in order to attract people like me to go work in finance, or doctors and lawyers and professionals and builders, in order to attract them to come and service this giant community that they're building, they were geniuses. They built a school 20 years ago. And that school was a Villages charter school. And so the charter school, in order to qualify, you either had to work for the Villages. They have several thousand employees. You have to be a contractor. You're putting the roofs on. You're building the homes. They're second tier. Third tier is the Villages owns lots of commercial property. Some of the town squares you've been to, where they're dancing the squares and have live music. And so they own all that commercial property. And so if you were, like when I was at Merrill Lynch, we leased a space from the Villages.
Right
so we were tier 3. Our kids got to go to that school for free. And so when I left wealth management, I no longer had had access to the charter school. Right. And so Michelle decided to get a job with the school as the lower school volleyball program coordinator. Right. Okay. And then she's turned it into like a national club, right? So now they have like 12 teams. And so it went from just intramurals on the side after school to now like they're going to try to build like state championship program.
Yeah. Okay.
And so luck would have it that one of the Villages family members, the granddaughter, is a really great, really good volleyball player. And so they have a vested interest in this as well of helping. And Michelle is world class. Like she's won she wins everywhere.
Your
she
wife's no
goes.
slouch.
She'll have a statue, somewhere, or a street named after her at some point, I'm sure. So anyway, she got this job and then has grown it, and then got the Villages family to contribute to the program.
Yeah.
And so now they have a much bigger budget. So she got a real job.
Yeah.
And so the Villages, in order to attract all these people, built this amazing school to get all these people. Well, now they build another school.
Yeah.
And the other school is 10 times better than the old school, which was 10 times better than any other school. Well, that problem is that school is about 20 miles from my house, which is about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Because of all the roundabouts and all that
drive,
stuff.
yeah.
And so the cool part is they built a community right around that school. And so imagine you're my kids at 13 and 9 today. Kate's 9. So everybody wish Kate a happy birthday.
Kate.
Happy birthday.
So she, Michelle, really wanted to have a place there because my kids are athletes. And so they're going after school programs like crazy, every day. And so they're driving 40 minutes to school, having to get up an hour and a half early, driving back, going back 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
It's just it was untenable. And so she got this job. She's making some money. And so she saved for a couple of years, saved money, so she could make a down payment and we could buy this house and get a mortgage, and then her salary would pay the mortgage. And so I don't want to give up my house because my house is a few miles from OGHQ. Right. But then it's called Middleton. The Middleton house is also half the size of my house. And so Michelle's house is in Middleton. But the reason why I greenlit the deal and stopped fighting the idea was, imagine you're 9 and 13 and you walk to school and all of your friends are there.
They're all in the
and you
neighborhood.
get to run the neighborhood because it's safe.
Yeah.
It's it's all the community around it is all retirees, and so they're going to get to have that 90s the life these guys didn't really have
Southeast,
as much as
that's
we did.
my neighborhood, Southeast.
You just
Boise,
ran
that's
it,
what I got.
just go, know. And so they're going to be able to do that. Plus, the house looks right at the stadium where my son's going to be playing football. So as they get older, we'll be there. And so what I'm thinking about doing now is selling my house, moving down there, because in that community there's also one of those town squares, and so that's where I'm going to build this amazing showroom, and I'm going to start doing local garages. The reason why I didn't want to do that is they're not my demographic.
Right.
They're not like the Freds and the Johns, these crazy $1 million garages that I like doing, but they still are going to buy flooring and cabinets and lighting, and it can actually become a really big business.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I'm going to build a channel called the OG Builds channel, and every single garage we do, we're going to video and put it on OG Builds, and then give the people that video, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to share it with everybody they know.
Yeah, exactly. And they're
So
going to
that's the story of why we have two
Nice.
houses. And so
Dig it.
now I'm thinking of selling mine and moving into that house, which I'm going to hate, which will be fun.
Sure.
But it's a new project. I'm going to build out that garage, but I'm going to be at that Middleton Town Square all the time building it out.
Yeah.
And then I'll make trips, I'll probably hire a driver, and so that way I can work on the way to OGHQ. So 2 or 3 days a week I'll spend at OGHQ. 2 or 3 days a week I'll spend, I work 7 days a week, so 5 days a week I'll be working on the Middleton thing, because me, I want to micromanage where every T-shirt is hung, and every square inch of this place looks the best it can, and then I have to teach everybody how to sell that I hire to sell stuff.
Yeah.
All
Dig
right,
it.
I got another one here for you from Dylan. Matt, would you rather get an S4 that you can modify or an RS5 for the V8 but little aftermarket support?
What do you think, Anthony?
S4
that you can modify, or the R chassis, that's
or the
already-
S5. I've never been like a huge big fan of the RS5. That's just not my thing. But the S4 thing's pretty cool. I like the S3s. I mean,
I like the S3.
If you get the
most.
RS3 with the 5-cylinder, that thing
I would
is sick.
probably just get the S3, or if you can get the RS3.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you see
That would be
our
ideal.
dentist got an RS3? Tyler's got an RS3.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Those cars are
Love
those
that.
cars,
Just got
those
that
cars are
last
more
month.
my style.
Same here. To be honest with you, the S3, I agree with Anthony on that. You get an RS3, it's less money. It's a little bit smaller. It's still a big car. You can still fit 5 people in that darn thing. It's
I got
much bigger.
one count against it. They only sell the sedan here in the States. If we could get the little hatch
hatch.
variant, I would
Yeah.
much prefer
The
that.
sedan's totally
I love
fine.
hatches too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a long roof. There were some people asking about how you like Boise, Airbnb, where you're at, that kind of thing.
So I had sworn I would never do an Airbnb again. When we did Emmanuel's garage, which was the very first garage giveaway, we booked an Airbnb and it looked great. And we got there, and you guys, oh my gosh,
It's like that. Is it like
boogers on the
we saw?
walls and just gross.
It was pretty bad.
And so I called the guy and said on the porch as we're heading out of there and trying to find a hotel, I paid like $5,000 for the week or 10 days or whatever I was staying at this place. And he said, yeah, no problem, man. I'm like, look, man, we can't stay here. It's just not. It's not up to the standard that we need. And he's like, yeah, no problem, man. No big deal. It was basically because the family just drilled it out of the house and went to stay at grandma's house just to make some money.
Because they're like, hey, some guy's going to pay us $5,000
exactly.
to stay here. Let's get
pay
out
our
of
mortgage
here.
for a couple months.
Yeah.
And so then I didn't think to take videos or pictures. And so then he filed a claim on Airbnb, and I just had to eat it because I didn't give him 48 hours notice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, this place was not as advertised. They said, well, do you have some photos? I said, no, we got the heck out of there. And he was cool. Well, he was lying to me.
Yeah.
And so I swore I would never do an Airbnb ever again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we did an Airbnb this time. It's pretty good.
Okay.
So,
There you go.
No,
not the Ritz-Carlton, but you don't have a Ritz-Carlton anyway.
No, we just have it in at 500. That's it.
So
We stayed last time.
It worked out okay.
All
And we got a kitchen, can make some steaks.
Yeah.
You know,
I had given you guys our link to the home to suites.
Oh, right.
Every room has its own kitchen. Trader Joe's across the street. Free laundry services, swimming pool, gym.
He'll never.
We made a
stop
commercial for them.
Well, no. Apart from that, I think everybody was just kind of engaged with what we were all talking about.
Okay.
I didn't
think so.
I didn't think people expected it to turn into a job interview. And like, so what do you say you do here? You know, getting hit with that. That was pretty fun, at least for us. But
I just find that I like what if I'm going to interview somebody, I'd rather dig in and ask you questions that you've probably never been asked before, or not really. It's not really top of mind because I think it can help. You know, I'm aware of who listens to me, and I'm aware of the value that getting people to share their positions, share their stories can have. I'm also aware of my position in that as well, and so I just think that I think you guys did great. I think this was super helpful. People are going to watch this multiple times.
I hope so.
Yeah, this is killer.
To go back and hear your stories, and because a lot of people want to be where you guys are at,
Yeah, and for me, something that really when I started with this company, something that resonated with me and something I've always tried to do was to be helpful. If there's a company that you like or a company that you maybe want to go work for, is just get to know them, just be friends with them. Nate, our graphic designer, he asked me that. How do I get a job there? Yeah. I said, just start showing up on Fridays and hang out with me and Anthony. Yeah, and that's what he did. And it got to a point where Jeff was like. Walked in and was like, where's Nate at? And I go, he's at his work. He's at his job. And Jeff goes, oh, what? He's not here right now? And I go, no, he works somewhere else. He just comes in on Friday after work to hang out for an hour with us. And he goes, well, is he coming in today? And I go, let me text him. But it was literally, he became invaluable. Jeff wanted to run something by him. Jeff valued his opinion just the same way that he valued my opinion, the way they valued Dane's opinion, and the way they ended up, like Anthony said, I started part-time, and by the end of the week, I was full-time. Being open and helpful. Your parents, I could have easily said no when they asked me about towels. Hey, man, I got a business to run. You're bugging me, right? I could have said that.
And that wouldn't have been entirely rude or inappropriate. No. That's just being realistic.
And your mom apologized every time she called me. I am so sorry to bother you. I am so sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
But being available and answering a question and just helping out helped us get into this spot.
So I got a question for you guys.
Yeah, what you got?
So now you're 6, 7, 8 years into this, 9 year, 10 year, 12 years into this, right? And would you say that what you just said is you're looking for a young guy or girl that wants a job to say yes, right?
Yeah.
Just say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say yes to whether you're getting paid or not, just say yes. So how do you still say yes when you're 10 years in? Mm-hmm. How do you not turn into not what I do, not my job description? How do you say yes? How do you think about that?
Good question.
Well, a lot of
It's
it is figuring
challenging.
out exactly what you want
Yeah.
out of your life.
That's well said.
For me, I've spent the last, I don't know, 2 years heavy therapy, going through just trying to figure out demons of my own past that never were dealt with fully. And where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? What kind of dad do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to provide for my kids? What kind of husband do I want to be? Because I can have this job and I can kick ass all day long. And I can do 100% of the things that I need to do for this company. But I know personally, I may falter and I may not be able to give attention to the things that matter most to me, which is my family, which is my wife, which is my kids, which is my life. That's more important to me sometimes than the job. But it's figuring out that balance.
So
figuring
how
out that
do you say
work-life
yes
balance.
with that?
And that is the hardest thing and something I still struggle with. And the reason I still see a counselor is to make sure that I am continually on track and making the right choices in my life for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the benefits of what this job brings me, or at least how I feel like I'm able to improve my job.
Because
what
it
I'm
doesn't
able to do.
have to be either or.
No,
especially if your spouse is on board.
Yeah.
Right? And your spouse is going to be on board if you're on board.
Right.
And you have to be careful, especially as a man. You have to be careful. I guess it applies to both.
Yeah.
You have to be careful to not come home and dump, because if you're let's say you just had a bad day and you just didn't like what the owner or the boss or whoever said. Sometimes you need to think about, because your spouse, you're unconditional here. You can say whatever you need to say, but sometimes you need to think about, man, am I gonna if
I dump every day,
right, she's going to be like, why were you saying yes to those idiots, right? Yeah. When really you didn't mean it to be that way. You're saying yes because you really admire the place, you love your position, you love your job, you want to get to the next level. But if your spouse isn't on board, it makes it really difficult to say yes, right? So you have to find that delicate balance of being candid and authentic, but also making sure that you're taking care of your whole family as the leader of it and their future, because that may require sometimes. I give this example to a lot of the young guys that want a lot. I said I was a 90%er. What a 90%er is when I was at the hospital when Kate was being delivered, and after she'd come out, I got a call, and that call was Dustin just left. And I was the manager. I was running the market. And I looked at Michelle and I said, Dustin just left. And she said, go. If I hadn't taken care of her and told and was at least somewhat positive, she would have said, absolutely not. You're here.
Yeah.
Our family comes first. But she looked at me and I looked at her, and she just knew I had to go. And that could be looked at many different ways, like, you should have been there. Your child's only born once, right? But now my child is never going to want for anything because of a lot of those decisions that were made. And I would have never been able to make that decision. I never would have been able to look her in the eye and say, Dustin just left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She would have said, absolutely not. Had I not, brought her along with it and just dumped on her all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anthony, how do you think about, how do you say yes when you're 10 years in, like you used to when you were younger, you didn't have as many responsibilities, you didn't have a family? What does that mean to you? What does that look like to you?
What does that look like to me? So I think the thing is, is this not just about life? I mean, it's not just about work. It's about life in general, right?
You're talking balance. They always talk about work-life balance.
Yeah.
I mean, you can silo things and you can say no a lot, but then when the opportunity passes you up, how can you be mad about that kind of thing? Or again, like same thing with your family. If your family you're trying to go and bring home the bacon, and you've been talking trash on your job the whole time, and so it can come from both sides. It can come from your boss. It can come from your wife. How do you get them both on board so that way when you need to say yes, what does balance look like to you?
Yeah. I don't. It's so. I feel like if it's one of those things where it's like if needs are being met, then I feel like the decision can be apparent. The decision can be easy, or it's one of those things where you follow. You can follow your heart, follow your gut, follow whatever it may be, but balance. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I understand the question.
It's a hard thing to answer.
I think it's a hard thing to answer because I totally get it. Like tonight, right? We're supposed to be going out to a dinner, right? But I have you may not know that we're going to a dinner tonight. By the way,
I got to lock down.
We're going to a dinner tonight, right? But I have my wife's great grandmother who's 100 years old, right? Who is in the hospital right now.
Not good,
right? And so
that one's a little easier, I think.
It's a little easier. Okay, listen. But like, I think that like, yes, I think that maybe something amazing could come from a dinner tonight, or something that we could talk about, or an idea we can come from. Something could come from that, right? Mm-hmm. Where I know it could be awesome, it could be super cool. But I also know that if she wants to go visit her grandma or something like that, it's going to be very important for her to do. And so figuring out the balance of who am I making happy at that point, or what options are there. And I think in this particular case, I think there's a pretty apparent answer, but
you take care of her now so that when you really do need to give her that look and say, hey, so-and-so, or I need to do this, and she'll say, go.
So you know how, I mean, if you've ever had a bad this particular thing has never happened to me, but you could have a bad relationship or be in a bad marriage or whatever it is, and you go and you complain to your parents about your spouse, or you complain to them, right?
That's a great example.
And you go and you say, hey, she's doing this, she's doing this. The thing is that you will be able to forgive your spouse. You will be able to look past that, look past those fiery moments, well said, right? Yeah. But then your parents, they love you, right? They may love your spouse, but they don't love your spouse like they love you. Yeah. And so the thing is they're going to have your back. They want what's best for you. So when things are rough and things are tough, and you keep unloading on your parents, and you're causing this, you are causing, I don't know, not resentment. I mean, maybe resentment, but it's
resentment.
It is.
Well,
resentment,
they might keep score, right?
But then but then after so long, right? They are keeping score, and then you go, yeah, well, we're doing this together. We're you maybe take the next step in the relationship or the marriage or whatever it may be. You might be saying we're going to have kids now, right? After unloading your parents for 2 years about how bad something is, and you expect them to be supportive or feel on board. I mean, they're going to want what's best for you, and they might have to, might be a hard conversation of.
We're talking about really complex, socio or social dynamics, right? Yeah. You've got your family, you've got things like work-life balance, you have your career, which is important to all of us, right? Especially because we like what we're doing, right? Yeah. That's even more, and then more difficult. And then you've got this. We're both in this sort of growing gangbusters type situation where you got to be careful the thing doesn't outgrow you, and you've got to be careful that that the next young crop doesn't come in and beat you at your own game, kind of thing. And so you have to say yes, but then you start keeping score, and it can go awry if you're not careful. And you have to balance all these things, and you can't always say, hey, Dustin left, because another thing, a wise man, my original mentor, Jim Heaton, who was my mentor at Merrill Lynch, he told me this very early on. He said, look, what good would it do you if you had this amazing career and you were there all day, every day, and you look back and your kids and your wife, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you say through that whole process, I'm doing it for them.
Yep.
No, you're doing it for you.
Yes.
And if you know that, if you're self-aware enough to know that you're doing it for you, then your whole family can be okay with that. As long as you're willing to, again, think of a lot of these things, like don't go trashing your boss to your wife if you want your wife to like your boss, or like your founder or owner or your co-workers. Anthony, go home and say, look, Levi is a freaking idiot, man. He's always, this and that.
He does that anyway.
But usually he's on the phone with me while I'm saying that to my wife. Levi's an idiot. He's on the phone with me.
I'm right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Levi. I love you, man.
You still are on the phone with me. No,
you know
but
what
that
you know what
but
I'm
that's
saying.
Exactly
right
what it was. And for me, it was that this job was amazing. We were doing all kinds of fun stuff,
Right.
and I was a workaholic for a number of years.
60, 70 hours a week is easier when you're younger.
Yeah,
too.
when I ran my shop, it was 100-hour weeks. That's just how it worked. We just did it.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "Man, you got to slow down. Like, we got these little kids. You got to be home. You can't be doing this." So facilitating the move and going, all right, I'm going to work for the rag company and I'm going to work 40 hours a week, well, maybe 50 hours. I'll do that.
Yeah.
That quickly got to a point where I remember having the conversation with Jeff and Carolyn going, look, I have to stop at 5 o'clock. I have to turn my phone off. I'll start back up about 10 p.m., but I need to be home so I can hang out with my kids. Because what would happen is I get home and I get into comments, helping customers, doing all the Facebook, Instagram, Reddit,
The job
answering
doesn't really
questions,
end.
continually writing emails, doing all this stuff. Even when I got home, my wife going, you can't keep doing this.
If you add something to that so that, hey, Jeff, Carolyn, I've got to shut it off. But if you need me,
right,
I'm there.
And that's what it became. But then again, same thing. I was just gone, traveling a lot, running, doing this stuff to the point that I wasn't looking back at home and looking at my kids and looking at my wife and her struggling and going, I don't have a partner here. I don't have,
and I'm doing this for you. No, you're doing this for me.
You. Yep. And that's what it became. And so that was what that shift of going.
And what
you got to figure out what
give
you want.
her, if you give your family members the room,
Yeah.
I keep saying her because we're all dudes in here, but the same would hold true on both sides, right?
Yeah.
So if you give them the room to tell you when you're going awry.
Yeah.
When you've said yes too many times on one side of the equation here, I think that's how you solve it.
Yeah.
You don't talk bad about your spouse to your parents, right? That sort of thing. You don't always make an excuse that, hey, I'm doing this for us, right? No, you're doing it for you. And if you can get everybody on board with that, sometimes you can say, hey, Michelle, Dustin just left.
Yeah.
I don't even have to ask, can I go? She just said, go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you have that type of relationship, now, if you're a 50%er, you're not even going to consider it, right? You're not even going to say, hey, Dustin just left. You're just going to keep it to yourself. Hey, I can't be there. I'm sorry. Now, that's okay, but I'm going to get 50% of the result.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to know that going in. Again, I'm not keeping score here. Right. So if I'm not keeping score, I can say, look, I'm a 50%er or I'm a 25%er. I'm a work-life balance person. Life means much more to me than work. And that's perfectly fine. But then I have to make sure that I'm not keeping score here, that I got passed over on the promotion. I maybe didn't get the title I was looking for, like we talked about earlier, because I was overweighted on one side or the other. And so I think that that's an important distinction for people, that if you avoid keeping score, and if you are really honest with everybody, I'm doing this for me, or I'm not doing this for you. And if you're honest with everybody around you and you have that conversation, I think you can have a really great life. I mean, Michelle and I don't do everything together. I work 7 days a week, but I also have, she has the permission to say, hey, bro, this is time. Just, you can't say yes to this one. I need you to do this.
Yeah.
And giving her the freedom to do that instead of just internalizing that, and eventually then we end up having separate houses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Michelle does have her own house, kind of thing.
And building one more point off of that, just to kind of put a distinction for those of us in this room, at least, and probably for many others who do what they're passionate about, this whole thing becomes a whole lot more challenging when that work you speak of is something that directly ties into something you already enjoyed in life. And now it becomes this weird hybrid with the work. And so making that distinction, because it is so appealing to you just in and of
It's not
itself,
work,
it's
in a sense.
difficult
Yeah.
to draw that line, difficult to make that distinction between the work-life balance when you can't even really parse out exactly where the work starts and ends.
I'm going to be honest here. Work-life balance is for losers.
There it, there it is.
It just is. I mean, so if you want to lose, just know it. Be okay with it.
And that's why.
Now, loser doesn't mean negative.
That's why I have duffel bags hanging from my
It means
garage.
if you're in the game, if you're in the game of business, you're in the game of life, And if you want to exceed or succeed
Right.
or exceed expectations on the business side of this equation here, and if you even utter the words work-life balance, you're going to lose at some point. Now, you may just have ultra talent where you work your way all the way up the ladder. Maybe you don't get to the ultimate goal, right? But you need to be honest with yourself that if work-life balance is more important to me, and that scale may be 90-10 or 50-50 or 25-75, but if you can be honest with yourself, you'll know what the score really is.
100%.
Yeah.
And you won't keep score. And so you won't develop that disgruntled feel of, man, they screwed me. I didn't get this. I didn't get that. They suck. And then you start talking to your spouse and it turns into this negative spiral. I think that I've always had this adage in my head, and I'm saying this is what I say to myself: work-life balance is for losers. But I'm doing this for me. And I need to be honest that with everybody around me about that. And if everybody around me is okay with that, actually, if everybody around me is not okay with that, I've given them permission to let me know.
Yeah.
And constantly reminding people of that, and that's a really hard thing to be aware of. And as you go through therapy and as you learn who you are and what you're about, I think it's really important to make that distinction. That if you're choosing the work-life balance choice, you're going to lose somewhere. You may be able to just rest on your talent. You're so talented that you become the CEO by doing 25% effort, but you have to be honest with yourself on what the result is going to be if you're going to choose that path. Look, I want to travel, 3 months out of the year. I want to take vacations. I want to take days off. I want to turn off my phone. I want to do all that stuff. You can do that, but you're going to lose at some point. And that, as long as you lose past the point of where you're accepting, right, of where you feel like you're good. Right, I'm good with $100,000 a year. I'm good with my title. I'm good with my role. I'm going to be honest with my bosses and the company that I work for. This is where I want to stay. Is that okay with you? And I'm going to choose more balance.
Yeah.
Can I have that? And so you in that case, I guess you win because you found your spot. To me, I'm probably more like a 95-5er. I want to continue. I don't want the path to ever end. I don't want the ascent to ever end. Anytime that my ascent stops, I feel like I've lost. I'm a loser. The work-life balance means I'm a loser.
There you go.
I've got one more question
And then
for
we'll end
you
with that.
here.
There we go.
They were just asking how the remodel's going, so they just wanted to get like a little update. We are doing a live stream out there tomorrow where we can kind of show people
For sure.
as well.
Yeah.
Make sure to go subscribe to the Ride Company. It's the Ride Company channel where you do the podcast still on the main channel, or do you have a separate?
The Ride Company podcast is a separate channel.
Okay,
so we
it's
have
a
both
separate
channels.
channel. Gotcha. So
But
we'll
this
be
will be on the
on
main
that.
channel.
So we'll be on that.
The Rag Company YouTube channel, the main channel
For
Okay.
this particular
for our
stream.
live tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So make sure you go subscribe to the Ride Company channel and show these guys some love. If you got
Thank you.
value out of this, send them a message, DM them. If I'm sure these guys would be open if you wanted some advice on how you get to where they're at in life. Shoot them a message, shoot them an email. Levi at the Rag Company, Anthony at the Rag Company, Dane at the ragcompany.com.
Easy.
Very easy.
And I'm sure they'd be willing to share with you how they got to where they've gotten to and how they think about things. And, like Levi said, just show up on Friday and help out, and just try not to be weird about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
be normal. Just be normal.
A bunch of people showing up at your place, which is gonna
I'm
happen.
cool with it. You may be weird. Just try not to be weird.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in our own way weird, but, when we're amongst
Don't
others,
stand
That'll be our
behind the
next
dumpster.
podcast.
we'll work on
Our
that when
next
we
podcast,
interview
how
you.
not to be weird. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody for watching that watched live. Thank you guys for being so candid.
Yeah.
Hope I didn't put you too much on the spot.
Absolutely not.
No,
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next one. As always, stay tuned for more crazy. We're gonna wrap up this garage. Make sure to go check out the videos that we're putting together on the Ride Company studio. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
See ya.
See ya.
Good job, guys.